in the city where the shadows grow so tall, there's a woman named Karen caught up in it all. They say she did wrong, but the truth's hard to find, 'cause the law's got dirty fingers and justice is blind. Whoa, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Whoa, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. They twisted her story, turned the facts all around, made her out to be guilty on shaky ground. Evidence vanished and the lies start to flow, but the deeper you dig, the darker it grows. Oh, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Oh, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. She cries out for fairness, for a glimpse of the truth, but the powers that be, they ain't got no proof. The badges and the ties all woven with deceit, in this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat. Oh, the courtroom whispers and the gavel strikes down, but the air's filled with tension neath that judge's frown. Karen stands there strong with fire in her eyes, for she knows deep inside the real crime's in disguise. Whoa, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Whoa, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. One day the truth will rise like the sun in the sky, and the lies will crumble, no more alibis. But until that day comes, she sings a mournful tune of the justice blues neath the pale haunted moon. Cries out for fairness, for a glimpse of the truth, but the powers that be, they ain't got no proof. The badges and the ties all woven with deceit, in this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat. In this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat.
What do you got?
I think I can prove to a judge that both of these men had the mens rea.
What the hell is a mens rea?
It's a legal term the lawyers use. It just means the intention to commit a crime.
Okay, come on, let's go.
Mens rea?
Put the cuffs on him.
How could we have gotten mens rea? We take blood? Can you do it without taking blood? We both use condoms. How is this possible? I want to see a doctor. Can I have an independent blood test?
Money!
I feel sick.
What are you doing?
Mens rea! Oh! Oh! My God! No!
Boomer! Hey, it's me, everybody. How you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, however good it feels, however many times you're going to do it, why you're doing it in the first place, I don't know. I don't care. I'm just glad you're doing it here with me on this little old channel we call Legal Vices. Yeah, we should have started 12 minutes ago, but because I'm such a boomer, and when I say we, I mean I got through the first 8 minutes of this thing, which was a couple of songs, a big long intro, and realized I hadn't pushed the start stream button. So yeah, Got no excuses this time around. But I'm here now, and that's all that's important. And you're here with me. And I appreciate that. We've already got 604 people waiting for day 3 of Verdict Watch. Already got 604 people here and 216 likes. That's a great way to start the day, and I appreciate it because you could be anywhere with anybody, doing anything, watching anything, going anywhere. But you've to the exclusion of most other things, I'm sure there's a few multitasking. To the exclusion of most other things, you've all chosen to be here with me, and I do not take that for granted. And I'm extremely humbled that 637 of you have subjected yourself to me during day 33 of the Karen Reed murder trial, day 3 of Verdict Watch, and you've also served yourself up to me to take a good close look at Lally's closing arguments. That's the price you pay for the jury not coming back with a verdict yesterday. Today, we're watching Lally's opening. I mean, sorry, not his opening, his closing. We're watching Lally's closing arguments today whilst we wait for the jury to come back. And once we get started, we'll throw up another like and subscribe poll. But in the meantime, while we're just waiting for everything to happen, court should start within about 30 seconds from now, but we'll just have to wait and see. Because sometimes they're an hour late, sometimes they're just a little bit late. But let's bring this up right now so that we don't miss a thing. Right. Share you embiggen and then put you in the corner where you belong. There we go. All right, then I can make the screen infinitely small. Well, not infinitely smaller, but much smaller. All right. Well, yesterday was just day 2 of Verdict Watch, but it was not a dull day. We had the witness come out first. The jury come out with a question first thing in the morning. Everybody was all tense and excited, wondering what it meant. And the jury's question was, can we finish a little bit early today because one of the jurors has an appointment? They have to be on the 4:00 bus. And she said, yup. And they went right back in. Well, a few hours later, there's reports that there's a strong discussion between Yannetti Jackson and one of the court bailiff guys, or the court clerk, I guess. And a few minutes after that, we got word that something was going on in court. The Avengers assembled again, and there was a huge discrepancy about the proper jury form. Yannetti said that, Jackson said that the court had agreed to change the jury form so that it was more clear. It was so that it was clearer. And the judge says, no. I said I would think about it, and I'm not going to do it. And she got all huffy. She yelled at Jackson and basically told him to shut up. It wasn't going to happen. He appreciated his arguments. Then she turned to Yannetti for support and said, Mr. Yannetti, I know you've seen jury instructions like this before. And he said, nope, I haven't. Then apparently Karen Reed snorted or chuckled or laughed or something and got a very stern, is there something funny, Ms. Reed, from the judge. Which, it was outside. If it was inside the presence, if it was in the presence of the jury, I would have felt differently about the judge rebuke, but it was outside the presence of the jury. And whatever set her off, if it was, we don't know because we didn't see, because Jackson was standing in the way of the camera. But if it was a legitimate improper thing for her to do, I don't have a problem with the judge chastising her. The judge is supposed to be improper. Well, some judges are improper. The judge is supposed to be impartial, but it's also the judge's courtroom, and the judge can demand respect and proper decorum. So I don't really have a problem with that. So then they all went back with some huffiness going on. And then there was another juror question. They wanted to see the CERT report, the search and rescue team's report. The juror asked for this report of what they did in their search, their search report. And for 2 reasons, the judge couldn't give that to them. One, it wasn't entered into evidence. So that was one reason. You can't give a jury something that isn't entered into evidence. They have all of the evidence that was entered. And the second reason, which is also the reason that it wasn't entered into evidence, is that it doesn't exist. there was no cert report. So there was no cert report, so she couldn't give it to them. And even if there was a cert report, she couldn't have given it to them because it wasn't entered into evidence. And so she basically just told them, you have all the evidence you get. We're not going to give you any more. And while the jury was out hearing that, she said, you know, Mr. Jackson, I've been thinking, perhaps we do need to revise that jury instruction form. I've done nothing wrong. It's a perfectly acceptable and proper jury form, and that's my ruling. But in the interest of providing clarity, we will do that. We'll make a few adjustments. And they did adjustments that the defense was happy with. There was no objections from the prosecution. And then they went on their way, and I went to sleep and woke up to find that, no, hey, there's John O'Keefe's dad. We haven't seen him in weeks, and he's looking rough. Dang. And there was no jury decision yesterday. So here we are today for day 3.
Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in the Father County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and shall be heard. I'd say the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. School is now open. You may be seated.
22117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
All right. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. I have those same 3 questions for you. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here yesterday? Everyone said no or should. All right, with that, Mr. Fuller, I'm sending you and the rest of the jurors out to deliberate.
All right. That's the exciting beginning to the jury deliberations, day 3. He looks a little less confident than he has previously. He looks a little more humble. Perhaps I'm reading things into it. He's looking a little less like he wants to be there.
May be seated.
All right, same as yesterday. Please stay in the building until 10 o'clock. Be back here at 3:30. If you leave the building, let the court officers know where you're going to be and be prepared to be back in your seats within 5 minutes. Okay? Thank you.
All rise for the court, please.
And good morning, sealing the onion. Hour 8 of deliberations. Wow. All right. Well, that brings us to our like and subscribe poll for today. Let's put that like and subscribe poll up today. All right, here we go. Like. And while I'm doing this, like and subscribe. That's the whole point. Like. I can't spell. Like, subscribe, and vote. The jury deliberations will take, we're in hour 8 now, so we'll say 8 to 10 hours. 11, let's see, 10 to 12 hours. 12 to 15 hours. I forgot to put hours there. And more than 15 hours. And there's your like and subscribe poll. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you have already hit that subscribe button, double check to make sure you still are. Then take the like and subscribe poll. It's a simple question today. We are currently in hour 8 of the deliberations. The poll question for today is: the jury deliberations will take 8 to 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours, 12 to 15 hours, and more than 15 hours. So more than 15 hours is essentially into Friday. I certainly hope it doesn't go into Friday, because I planned on having it's Thursday night here, and tomorrow when the court starts, it'll be Friday night here where I am. I planned on having a Friday night out. So let's just hope that somehow they manage to agree with each other and to put aside their disagreements and come to a unanimous decision within today. right. Let's see how so far we are looking with 334 votes. Not too bad. 25% are saying 8 to 10. 34% are saying 10 to 12. 27% are saying 12 to 15. And 14 are saying more than 15. We'll check back in an hour or so and see how that's going. But we no longer need to stare at the ceiling fan. So what we're going to do now is read through some of the super chats and the membership things here real quick. And then we are going to begin watching and breaking down and analyzing and discussing Prosecutor Lally's closing arguments. I'm sorry to do that to you, but in fairness and in the theory of equal time and equal opportunity, we did the defense's closing yesterday. So now we got to take a look at the prosecution's closing. But first, before we do that, Moose to Use gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships right at the beginning. Well, actually, before we started, right when I should have started, but I was boomering along. 5 Legal Vices memberships. If you got one of those 5 Legal Vices memberships from Moose to Use, make sure you give Moose to Use a super special thanks. Thank you so very much. And Jonathan Irwin with a $5 super chat. What do you think about Bev's reversal on the verdict form, and will it help the jury reach a verdict? I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. I don't think there should have ever been a question that even if the jury form was proper in all ways to begin with, what's the problem? What's the harm in making a little extra clear how to fill in the blanks? So there was nothing wrong. I'm going to say, okay, maybe perhaps that's the jury form she's used forever and ever since the dawn of mankind in her courtroom. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. But what's the problem with making it a little more clear? None. She should have agreed immediately, and she shouldn't have had to reverse herself like that. But I'm glad she did. I'm glad whoever whispered in her ear had the power to make her listen and rethink her actions. Will it help the jury reach a verdict? Yes, I believe it will be helpful. When she first explained it, it seemed like it was making it more confusing. But then when she read it back to the jury, it made a lot more sense. And they're going to have the paper there, and they're going to be able to read it and figure out more what to do than just have one little box that says not guilty and a bunch of other guilties. So yes, I think it'll do good. And Xcomer Triple Z for the Doggo Starfish Cam. We don't have any dogs in here yet. Well, Strawberry's under the desk, but she'll come out and lay on her blanket here in a bit. Hopefully we'll get there. We'll just have to see. For those of you who don't know, when we get to the $100 super chat or membership level or whatever, we unleash the achievement, which is the emotional support potato pig dog English bulldog cam. D-Pat, will sidebars be public after the trial is over? That's a good question. Really, the only sidebars I've seen were the Johnny Depp ones. Were the ones of the Johnny Depp trial, and I don't know what the process to get those were. I mean, they're there, and they probably should be available. It's do you want to pay for it? If they don't deem it necessary to have them, they might not request them. And transcripts are expensive, so usually you don't get transcripts of stuff you don't need. And it'll take a while, and then if somebody requests them and wants to pay for them, perhaps they will be put out there in the wild at some point. And Showbiz Quiz with the $2. What's the lowest lesser charge she can get? That's a good question. I think it's well, let me not think. Let me check the sheet here. According to my notes, which are true and correct to the best of my knowledge, because it was late and I was tired, the motor vehicular homicide, which is operated a vehicle on a public road under the influence of liquor and operated the vehicle in a negligent manner and caused the death of John O'Keefe. That's so vehicular homicide basically is what we would call it, like in Utah. But all right, that is that. Unhung Hero with $2. Sidebar. Thank you. And Victor Mann, 7777, model jury form has not guilty of charge and any lesser included charge. Her form only went through, it had not guilty at the top rather than not guilty of the charges and any lesser included charge. And that was the compromise. An explanation was added how to fill it out, and the form itself was revised to change the simple not guilty at the top to not guilty of the charge and any lesser included charges. So thank you very much for that. That is deeply appreciated. And we will check back on super chats here in a little bit. But hey, chat, it is good to see you. We currently have 1,100 people here and 560 likes. This is great. We're almost to 600 likes already. Boom. And we haven't even really done anything. So you guys rock and or roll. I am going to bring up the court. Okay, we got the court feed. We need to bring up a couple of things here. Let's do 2 days ago's closing. That's what we need. Law and crime. Go get ya. Live. Is this us? This better be us. It is. All right. This is so annoying. The stupid thing that YouTube does now, apparently, where on Edge, I don't know if it's the same in Chrome. I should check it's in Chrome. But in Edge, where I have the streams streaming, suddenly, as of a few days ago, YouTube won't let you have 2 videos playing simultaneously on Edge. I don't know if it's YouTube doing that or Edge not letting you do that. Whatever it is, it annoys the hell out of me. So I have to open this here. All right, so now I'm watching today's trial on yet another window, because why not? Give me just a quick second to fast forward. Move this over here. I wish you could see what I was doing. Then it wouldn't be so dull and uninteresting for you. All right, put that there. Minimize all of these other windows so I don't do anything too horrifically drastic while I'm flipping about windows. All right. That's the live one. That's the copy one. This is the window here. We're going to switch that out and put on Lally's closing arguments. There we go. Lally's closing arguments are going to begin as soon as I am bigging it. And again, thank you everybody for being here. And thank you, Canton, Virginia, for the 99-cent super sticker, which is a cat, presumably in Virginia. Thank you so very much. And I'm assuming that's the cat that is in Virginia. All right. I'm sorry to do this to you all, but this is Lally's closing arguments. Perhaps some of you thought it was great. And while you're watching this, we're going to stop and we're going to comment. Feel free to put your comments here in chat. I'll try to be watching chats and picking some of your comments up. I gave Jackson an A- on his closing arguments because they were very effective. They were very powerful, but I thought his beginning was a little slow, a little rehearsed, a little seemingly distant and not connected with the jury. But 5-10 minutes into it, he got into his stride, and I thought he did an amazing job. Lally is not going to get such a high score out of me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
He already seems grumpy, disconnected. He's bright red. There was no contact with the jury when he got up. He's like, yeah, Your Honor. He mumbles. He gets to the table and he just throws his stuff down and he frumps over the lectern. It's not sending a good message to the jurors. Try 2.0 speed for Lally? No, because then what would we do? Still hasn't looked at the jury. Still looking down. The jury's going, okay, you're wasting our time, buddy.
I hit him. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
That was a powerful start. I'll give him, that's an attention-grabbing start. So as far as anybody else outside? Are you done? Sorry about that. The punch comes in. You got to grab the attention. I wouldn't have delivered that way. He delivered it almost as if he was bored. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. I would have been a little more, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Put a little passion into it, Lally, not just I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. But that's his style. And interestingly enough, what I recall, and maybe you guys recall something different. I haven't gone back and checked it yet, but my recollection is the firefighter girl who was friends with one of the Alberts. She said that Karen said it 3 times, not 4 times. Anyway.
Those are the words of the defendant. 4 times. You heard testimony from 4 different witnesses who overheard and observed those statements from the defendant on January 29th, 2020.
And here's another thing where I guess your memory and your notes come into play. My recollection is one person, the firefighter woman that ended up driving the ambulance back, heard Karen Reed say 3 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And she was the only one that heard it. That's my recollection. I could be wrong. There could have been others, but my recollection is the other people that testified said they heard, it was told to them by the firefighter lady. Maybe there was more than one that heard it, but my memory was one person heard him say it 3 times and then told the other people that this is what happened. When they asked what happened, oh, she said, this happened, this happened, this happened. So either he's lying or I have memory problems. First line in and misstates his own evidence. This guy is a neighborhood within 2 pounds. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I agree if my memory serves me correctly. And again, please feel free here in chat. We like differences of opinion here, by the way. It's not an echo chamber. I mean, this case happens to be a case where a very large number of people are in agreement as to what they believe happened, but there are still people that think she did this and she should pay for it. And you're welcome here. Just everybody be respectful to each other. There's no problem. I'm not saying there's a problem. I'm just saying, that be respectful, and we love differences of opinion. So if I heard something wrong, do not hesitate to correct me.
You heard testimony from firefighter Timothy Nuttall. He was trying to bag valve mask Mr. O'Keefe. He was working on resuscitative efforts to try to save Mr. O'Keefe's life. He asked if anyone saw anything or knew what happened, and the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Firefighter Anthony Flamati was asking if anyone had information on why Mr. O'Keefe was there in the snow. The defendant repeatedly said, I hit him, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him.
Now, here's an interesting thing, too. That tells you that somebody misheard. When all of the witnesses, assuming that the different witnesses did hear her say this, they should all hear and remember the same thing. But you have some people saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 4 times. Then you have this other person who heard, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him. Those are different statements. So somebody is misremembering, which calls your own witnesses into credibility. Credibility into question.
Was tasked by firefighter Flamati with asking for biographical information and for what the cause was of the traumatic injuries that all the firefighters testified that they observed on Mr. O'Keefe. She asked the defendant, and the defendant said, I hit him repeatedly. Firefighter McLaughlin asked for clarification. You did what? And the defendant repeated, I hit him. Jennifer McCabe stated initially over the phone when speaking with the defendant that the defendant said, could I have hit him in the car while they're on the phone with Ms. Roberts going from Ms. McCabe's house to Mr. O'Keefe's house? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Once on scene, once asked, as Ms. McCabe described by an EMT, for name, age, things like that related to Mr. O'Keefe, what caused the trauma? She indicated in her testimony that the defendant said repeatedly, "I hit him."
I will give him points for repeating this mantra over and over and over again, drilling into the jury's head that she said, "I hit him, I 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 hit him." So that is a strong point of his closing argument. He's focusing on a theme so far, and he's running with it. He's boring it into the. I mean, like boring a hole, not like, oh God, I'm so bored. He's boring it into the minds of the jurors that this is what she said. This is what she did. And again, we've talked about it a lot of times. It's the inflection is important. I did it versus I did it. Or, those are two big differences in meaning. And everyone said, well, yeah, but it was debunked and all that. The jury has to go on their memory and their notes and whatever witnesses they have. And we're going to talk about that. But right now, and again, as we're going through this, recall how Alan Jackson in his closing argument, he went with the cover-up at the beginning. It's all the big cover-up. Then he went into the person that was responsible for gathering all of the important stuff was Proctor, and what a piece of garbage Proctor was, and how he had possession of things. So he went from the big conspiracy into the Proctor did everything, into even if we set aside the grand conspiracy, or if we set aside the possibility that Proctor did this, let's look at the scientific evidence. And he went on the scientific evidence for probably half of his closing arguments. And he showed why, regardless of what happened, the science proves that she could not have hit him. Now, when we're going through Lally's here, notice how much of his time is spent on things that one person heard, things that one person said, things that one person saw, things that can't be contradicted, and how much time he spends focusing on scientific evidence and whether she was drunk and when she hit him with the car. So you see how much time is spent on each of these. And Cloak and Glomer, good to see you here with the $5. Just saw several claims. There's a retired Leo law enforcement officer on the jury. Has anyone else heard or confirmed there's a retired cop juror? I have neither heard nor can confirm or deny. So that's the first time I've heard that particular rumor.
You heard testimony from Officer Sarah, statements that he attributed to the defendant as saying that morning, "This is all my fault. This is all my fault. I did this." This is what the defendant is saying on scene. Since then, stories changed a little bit. But those were the words that came from the defendant's mouth on January 29th, 2022, as John O'Keefe lay dying on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road, where the defendant had left him after striking him with her motor vehicle several hours before, and then left him freezing there in a blizzard.
And again, his delivery is so off. We talked about this during the opening statements. He just seems bored by his own voice right from the beginning. And then she hit him with a car, and then she left him there, and then she drove off, and she didn't care, and I don't care, and so why should you guys care? And he's looking down at the table most of the time. He's not looking at the jurors. He's disengaged. He's distancing himself from them, weirdly.
There's certain things that have come up over the course of this trial as far as evidence and testimony concerned, little things. And what I would suggest to you, it's those little things that are quite telling as it pertains to the defendant's statements and the defendant's actions over the course of January 28th and January 29th and beyond. I'm going to bring some of those to your attention as I go through, but just ask you to keep that in mind as far as when you're deliberating, when you're reviewing this testimony and this evidence. The little things matter. The little things start piling up in this case. Throughout the course of this trial, you've heard a lot of purported evidence or questions of witnesses in an attempt to distract you from the evidence in this case. It's essentially defense by obfuscation. It's a 3-card monitoring. Facts and the evidence in this case are your card, they're the Queen of Hearts. And so what I want you to, or what the defense wants you to do is not look at that card. Look at anything else. Look at movement, look at this person, look at that person, look at text messages, look at this.
This is so weird. This is sort of what his prosecution was. Ignore the facts. Look at the other things. Look at the things that can't be proven. What somebody heard, what somebody saw, what somebody thought, what somebody realized, what somebody felt. And there was very little of the scientific evidence. And when it did, it came from people such as the one that that Alan Jackson referred to as it was Boston's best and brightest Paul, Trooper Paul. I don't know why I thought Potter, but yeah, Trooper Paul, the best and brightest. So this is kind of weird. And I wonder if the jury is thinking this is strange too, that wait a minute, all we heard was scientific testimony from them. They had one guy, the driver of the snowplow. Everybody else was scientists talking about evidence, talking about what it is, what it's not, what would happen if a car is hit by, what would happen if a vehicle is hit by a person, what would happen if a person is hit by a vehicle. It was all about the science for him. That's all the defense put on. And he's calling it the defense by obfuscation and trying to draw your attention elsewhere away from the facts. It's weird.
And so what I want you to, or what the defense wants you to do is not look at that card. Look at anything else. Look at movement, look at this person, look at that person, look at text messages, look at this. Don't pay attention to the facts and the evidence, because if you do, what it will ineluctably lead you to is that the defendant is guilty of each of the 3 indictments before this court. The evidence and the facts of this case are for you, the jury, to decide.
And there's that tell. There's that nervous laughter. Sorry, I accidentally called it nervous laughter once on day one, and I've been calling it. It's that nervous cough. He does that nervous cough thing that when he's getting uncomfortable, when he's not feeling confident. If you go back, if you have any desire to go back and watch any of his direct or cross examination, he does that when he gets nervous and out of his comfort zone. And I'm sure they've noticed his coughing and when he does it. And so that's kind of a tell for him, I think.
And the facts of this case are for you, the jury, to decide. Using your common sense, using your life experiences as your guide through that as you go. Before I turn to that evidence that I will submit to you and ineluctably demonstrates the defendant's guilt, let me first just address triple fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Text messages from.
Okay, and this is something that you saw in the O.J. Simpson trial, if you watch that, or if you watch my coverage of it, and in other cases where there's a really bad witness. It's normally not the cops, but when the cop is a piece of shit, you got to own it. When everybody knows, when he's completely indefensible. You saw that, like I said, in the O.J. Simpson trial, where Mark Furman was just eviscerated by the prosecutors every chance they got after his testimony. And here he's doing the same thing with Proctor. He's like, let's talk about Proctor. He's a piece of garbage. Yes, we know that. We're sorry. He's a human dumpster fire. Nothing he said was justifiable. But
From Triple Proctor are unprofessional. They're indefensible. They're inexcusable. However, as distasteful as those messages are, and their content is, I submit they had no bearing whatsoever or impact whatsoever on the integrity of the entirety of the investigation that Massachusetts State Police collectively conducted.
Yeah, collectively. Not that their lead investigator did. Their lead investigator texting his superiors, his 2 levels of superiors, talking about her balloon knot in her ass and all these other things, and texting his group of friends saying, no, the Alberts will, Don't have to worry about the homeowner. He's a Boston police officer too. He's a Boston cop too. He's not going to catch any shit. Yeah, texts like that have nothing to do with the investigation. None of that has cast any aspersions or doubt on the fairness of the investigation, do they? Well, they kind of do. But again, what does Lally really have to work with? What does he really have going for him in these closing arguments? Not a whole bunch. Saddle Up Vicky Sue says we should get free doggo cam if we have to listen to Lally. You don't pay for doggo cam. It's just an achievement that gets unlocked. We would never hold the dogs behind a paywall. Cloak and Glomer just saw several claims. All right, that we read you had a turn, but I haven't seen that one yet. That rumor that there's a law enforcement officer on the jury. Jonathan Irwin, like I said, GEDs versus PhDs. Well, one of them had 0 degrees. The other had an associate's degree. And then we have people with like multiple PhDs that actually know what they're talking about. And Tin Cat, what's up, Tin Cat, with the $5? Even if it sounded rehearsed, Jackson's opening was great because it makes the refrain of look away stick. Exactly. It makes you hear it while Lally presents. And I hope it did stick. Because like I said, I gave Jackson a good solid A-. Trust me, Lally ain't getting it. Jackson got the A-. Lally ain't going to get it. Rhonda Crum, Lally just lied about the male firefighter. She said, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? I hate Lally. Yeah, okay. Well, join there's a lot of people that dislike Lally, so join the crew there.
Into John O'Keefe's death here. As was asked of Trooper Proctor on cross-examination, these were texts from his personal phone that he never thought would see the light of day. He was asked whether or not he ever thought that he would be asked about these in a courtroom, put to him in sort of a safe space, a safe place for him to discuss.
See, that's the problem right there that he fails to see. The fact this was on his private phone, something he thought he could get away with, something he thought he could do, something that he thought no one would ever find out. That makes it worse. At least if he's doing it on his police phone, he's doing it out in the open. He's doing it here behind the closed doors in the darkness where nobody will notice, and then he gets caught. That's exactly what I was saying, Scarlett Sullivan. It is worse. It is worse that he was doing it secretly and privately in a place he thought was a safe space where he could talk about the case to people.
What do you not see in those text messages? You don't see any discussion or any illusion of any conspiracy, of any framing of the defendant, of any planting of any evidence. No evidence whatsoever. Why?
The homeowner's not,
because it didn't happen.
The homeowner's not going to be in trouble.
No,
he's not going to get any shit because he's a Boston cop.
There is no evidence of any of that beyond speculation, rampant speculation and conjecture on behalf of the defense.
Rampant speculation.
Two things can be true at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. The texts from Trooper Proctor are distasteful, disrespectful, they're unprofessional. There is no defense to them. And the defendant killed John O'Keefe.
Yes, but let's prove that the defendant killed John O'Keefe. Yes, show us the evidence.
Talk a little bit about John O'Keefe. You heard a lot about him over the course of this trial, about his selfless story through his family and friends that loved him, including his adopted niece and nephew. You heard a lot about the lives he touched and the different people who he had friendships with. You heard a lot about from those particular friends and from his family. Turning to what I would submit to you as a timeline. This may be a little hard to see up here. What I'm going to go is from left to right. January 28th, 2022, 9:49 in the morning, Karen and John begin fighting over text messages. 2:25 p.m. in the afternoon, the defendant texts Mr. O'Keefe, "Tell me if you are interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this." John texts back, "Nope." 2:25, Mr. O'Keefe texts the defendant, "Things haven't been great between us for a while, ever."
Doesn't this sound like someone who's in a murderous rage and wants to kill their stupid boyfriend because the fire might be dying?
Consider that. This is also testimony that you heard through multiple sources, whether it be phones, whether it be from the children, whether it be from other friends or family members as to the relationship in the months and weeks leading up to John's murder.
Where are the witnesses he's talking about? Where are the witnesses that said they were in a horrible relationship and they hated each other and it was terrible? And we thought, oh my God, John, you've got to get out of there. She's going to kill you one of these days. Where are those witnesses? Literally every one of the prosecution's witnesses that they put on said it was a normal relationship. They loved each other. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. They were lovey-dovey. They were very caring. The worst you heard was them saying sometimes John would get mad because she was too kind to the kids. She was too giving and too generous with the kids.
2:32 p.m. John texts the defendant, "Sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now." He then texts the defendant, "OMG, stop calling." This is during the time frame that Trooper Garino was talking about, with 18 phone calls, most of which were rejected, some of which were missed, and a couple of which were answered over the course of this afternoon, as she's continuing to needle and try to engage him in a fight that he doesn't want to have. 2:33 p.m. The defendant texts John, "So you're not into this anymore." 2:34 p.m. John texts the defendant, "I am not answering, stop calling." The defendant then texts John, "Then stop starting with me." 2:38 p.m. The defendant texts John, "I'm going to grab a drink in a bit." 2:38 in the afternoon. Around 3 p.m. is the testimony you heard from Erin O'Keefe in regard to the defendant texting her, asking if she can go out without her husband, Paul, asking him to go out for a drink. This is while Erin O'Keefe testified she was waiting for one of her children at the bus.
How in what way does this show that there's a bad relationship? In what way does this show that there's rage or hatred between them when she just says, "Look, I'm gonna go out and have a drink with a bit," and then she texts one of the O'Keefe clan and says, "Can you come out without Paul?"
Stop picking that child up around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is also the point at which the defendant says to Ms. O'Keefe, "Wish I didn't speak to another O'Keefe after 2004. 7:30 p.m., you have Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano arriving at C.F. McCarthy's, with the defendant arriving at 8:51.
Yeah, and if you look at the videos, they're hugging each other, their hands are all over each other, they're having a lovely little time together. But we're not going to see that video, are we?
8:58 p.m. is when the defendant receives drink number 1 at C.F. McCarthy's. Vodka soda, tall cylinder glass, lime, and a straw. 9:13 p.m., drink number 2. 9:20 p.m., drink number 3. 9:33 p.m., drink number 4. 9:57 p.m., drink number 5. 10:22 p.m., drink number 6. 10:29 p.m., drink number 7.
Now, I'm not saying she didn't do this. I'm saying that if she did this, there's a couple of things. One, they have the receipts of her purchasing these drinks. She's there with a friend or friends. The receipts show her purchasing these drinks. It doesn't show her drinking these drinks. So we can ask whether or not that these were drinks that she bought for others that were being part of the group. Because if she's drinking the tall glasses of vodka and tonic, or just a shot of every 7 minutes ish, every 7 to 15 minutes, she's slamming down another shot. If she drank all of these, that's, what do we got? She gets 2 drinks at 8:54. So nine drinks in 2 hours. That's a lot. That's a lot. Like, that's my level of lot. And she's a small one. We'll talk about this. So we can do one of two things. We can assume that she drank all of these herself, or we can assume that she didn't drink all of these and shared some with others. That's up to the jury to decide which they're going to believe. But his clear intention is to get people to believe that she drank 9 shots of vodka and tonics some of the time in the space of 2 hours. Canton, Virginia, with a 99-cent dog sticker, and Sky is a neighborhood with the 5 pounds, regardless of thoughts about Lally's evidence value, did think him linking to exhibit and clips was good. Okay, let me read one more super chat and we'll talk about that. JKD Buck 76, member for 15 months. If I drank all the drinks I've purchased, I'd be dead. Oh yeah, well, me too. This derp acts like buying around doesn't exist. And see, my deal is I buy drinks for everybody. If I'm with a group, I'm buying drinks for everybody quite often during the night. Hell, when we all had our Vegas thing I guess about a month ago, I was buying drinks for the other tables and shit just because that's what I do. Doesn't mean I drank them all. I'd be dead. So the exhibits are good and fine. I don't have a problem with them. I just have a problem with what's included in them, because it's misleading at best and wrong at worst. But I do like the visuals. Give them the visuals, put it out there in writing. So I agree with you to an extent on that, on Sky is a neighborhood. Visual things to look at, because you retain a certain amount you hear, you retain a certain amount you read, and you retain a certain amount you see. So if you're talking and then you get a visual, you get all three: hearing, seeing, and reading. And that solidifies things a little better into your skull.
7 drinks from 8:58 p.m. through 10:29 p.m. when she receives that last drink at C.F. McCarthy. A drink that she indicates to Sergeant Mechanic and several others on the next day that she did not take with her from C.F. McCarthy's to the waterfall, which several individuals at the waterfall testify that she produced from her coat when she walked in, and that you can clearly see on the C.F. McCarthy's video her walking out the door with the same tall cylinder glass in her right hand. Now, keeping understanding that some of these drinks are not the full tall cylinder drinks, what she's doing is she's getting shot glasses of vodka and then pouring them into the drink after she's consumed the drink.
Where is the video?
10:54 p.m. The defendant and Mr. O'Keefe arrive at the waterfall, during the course of which, on an hour that they're there, the defendant receives drinks number 8 and drinks number 9. 12:10 a.m. From the waterfall video, you have Ms. McCabe, Ms. Kolakithis, and the defendant departing the waterfall together. Interestingly, around the same time, you also have the text and screenshot communications between Colin Albert and Allison McCabe in reference to him getting picked up at that time. We also have testimony from Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr. in reference to them sort of walking in from the waterfall as Colin Albert is walking out of 34 Fairview Road, gets picked up by Ms. McCabe, and then is driven home. 1 minute later.
And another thing that's interesting that I just thought of to bring up in relation to her drinking the alleged 9 glasses of vodka and or vodka tonic. You got Strawberry chewing on a bone here. That's the noise you're probably hearing in the background. 9 shots of vodka, sometimes with tonic. Not a single witness testified that she appeared or acted drunk in any way. In fact, several of the prosecution's witnesses contradicted that, and when asked, said no, she didn't show any signs of being inebriated, intoxicated, or otherwise impaired. That's not what you do when you have 9 shots of vodka in 2 hours. You display signs of intoxication, especially if you're just this small thing like she is. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now back to these text messages.
Here, 12:11, Mr. O'Keefe is then on the waterfall video walking out with cocktail glass in his right hand.
Good night, Hayden.
At 12:14 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe texts Ms. McCabe, "Where to?" 12:14 a.m., based on the fact that she's driving, and Mme. McCabe indicated in his testimony that she should call him instead of texting while driving, Ms. McCabe calls John O'Keefe, speaks with him regarding directions, or going over which way to come in Chapman Street, over Cedar Crest, as far as coming into Fairview Road. 12:15:38 a.m., the defendant's vehicle drives by the Canton Library. You can see that on the video. 12:17:56, the defendant drives by the Temple Beth Abraham video. Again, you can see that on the video. Remember also the testimony from Lieutenant Tully in regard to the CSLI data and the ranging data in reference to it coinciding with what you observed, the black SUV, from each of those respective videos. 12:19:32. Mr. O'Keefe enters 34 Fairview Road into his Waze app on his phone. 12:23 a.m. is when the defendant conducts a three-point turn on Cedar Crest and travels back toward Fairview. That's from Mr. O'Keefe's GPS native location data from his phone. Around the same time, at 12:23 and 12:24 is when you have that testimony from Ryan Nagel, Heather Maxon, and Ricky D'Antono pulling into Fairview Road around the same time and pulling in behind the dark SUV. 12:25 a.m. is the last native location GPS data of John O'Keefe's phone. It's in that area between 32 and 34 Fairview Road, where his body is discovered the next morning, in which there is no movement of that phone from that 12:25 a.m. period until Miss Roberts then picks up the phone on the grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe's body sometime after 6 a.m. What you have up on the screen right now is that data, those plotting points that Trooper Garino was testifying about as far as the movement of the vehicle. Movement of the vehicle as it comes down Cedar Crest past.
So this, I think this is a poor graphic. Maybe they can see it better than we can, but this looks fairly nonsensical to me. And in the literal sense that it doesn't make any sense what he's trying to show. Maybe they have a better view, but now notice how he's saying that the phone didn't move after 12:24, whereas we had very clear evidence from qualified experts on the defense that showed there was movement after that. But aside from that, what he's implying, he didn't say it, what he's implying is that John O'Keefe was struck and killed by Karen Reed at 12:24 or thereabouts. Because if you go back and listen to his opening statement, he said the evidence we present will show that Karen Reed struck John O'Keefe with her SUV at right around 12:40, 12:45. So he has moved the time as the defense tore apart that idea that he could have been hit by a car at 12:45 a.m. They kept trying to move it up to 12:40 to 12:35, but then we had the bombshell witness from the prosecution's own witness that her phone linked to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi in John O'Keefe's home at 12:36, and it's a 6-minute drive in good weather from Albert's house to O'Keefe's house. So even in good weather, she would have had to leave by 12:30. Now we've got him implying that it happened at 12:24. He's moved the timeline up 20 minutes from his opening statements to his closing arguments.
Passes by Fairview, reverses direction, and then comes down Fairview, moving up as the witnesses described, eventually stopping in that area of the property line between 32 and 34 Fairview Road, which happens to coincide with the vehicle control history database information from the Toyota text stream, which you now have up on the screen before you here, indicating that Following that 3-point turn, approximately 8 minutes after that, from Trooper Paul's testimony, as far as the mileage, 36 to 38 miles, matching up with the time that the vehicle is in front of 34 Fairview Road, that the vehicle travels in reverse, in a straight line, with 24.2 miles per hour, 62 and a half feet, with a minor steering angle change.
And this is another thing. This has nothing to do with the quality of his closing arguments. Other than I hope people think about this. This is a woman he just said had at least nine shots of vodka over the space of a few hours. Then they went to the other bar and apparently had more drinks at the other bar. So she would have been well and truly liquored up and far from sober. Yet in a snowstorm, she happens to be able to drive backwards at a very high rate of speed for driving in reverse, 24.6 miles per hour. In reverse, in a near perfect straight line for nearly 70 feet. That's pretty damn good for a person with a blood alcohol content of, 0.28, 9 hours after this was supposed to have happened. So yeah, she would have been damn near, if you figure in the metabolization of the alcohol over the period of time, at this point, according to their theory, she should have been damn near comatose. But yes, she's managing to drive backwards for 67 feet at a high rate of speed in a straight line. Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that. But again, that's a fact thing, and that's what the jury's gonna have to decide. And it has nothing to do with his argument. It's just something that annoyed me strongly throughout this case.
Which the trooper indicated was consistent with a pedestrian collision. At 12:30 a.m., you have that second triggering event 8 minutes after the 3-point turn when the vehicle's in reverse at 24.2 miles an hour. 12:35 is when the defendant.
I noticed that he did put the connecting the Wi-Fi here. So he's redrafted this timeline now to say that his phone didn't move after 12:24. And then because they were standing there talking, or he was just standing there alone in the snow, nobody was moving for approximately 6 to 8 minutes. And then she begins this 3-point turn thing. And now this here is problematic. So she's saying that they drove away at 12:30. And then she calls, then she connects. It's this timeline looks nothing at all like the timeline that was presented during his opening statements.
Calls John, and that's unanswered. 12:36 is around the time that the defendant's phone connects to the Wi-Fi at 1 Meadows Avenue, Stroke's home. 12:37 is when the defendant leaves this voicemail. So within minutes of that vehicle's data, going 24.2 miles an hour in reverse for 62 and a half feet, the defendant leaves that voicemail, seething in rage as she's screaming, "John, I fucking hate you."
Which is not something that you would probably leave as a voice message if you intended to kill someone and had intentionally killed them. That would look very bad for you.
12:40 to 12:42. Ms. McCabe is texting Mr. O'Keefe. She tries calling Mr. O'Keefe, gets no answer. If you recall from her testimony around this time frame, about 12:40, she was unsure whether the vehicle was actually still out front or if it had gone at that point. But she was looking for John because she had seen the defendant's vehicle in front of the house and no one had come in. So she was wondering where her friend, Mr. O'Keefe, was. 12:55. The defendant texts John, "See you later." 12:59. The defendant calls, leaves another voicemail for Mr. O'Keefe. Exhibit 637. It sounded like this.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you want, fucking pervert.
But somebody did know where Mr. O'Keefe was. The defendant knew exactly where he was. She had driven him there. She had struck him there. She had left him to die.
Why would you
1:02
make all of
the
these
defendant leaves another
calls?
voicemail with no content. And then she texts John, your kids are fucking alone. 1:09 a.m. The defendant texts John, I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone. She's not. GPS.
See, this right here, this one text, this is the text that tells me that she didn't do this. Why is that? Because that to me, and this is just totally my personal interpretation of this one text message. The I'm back in Mansfield, the kids are home alone. This one text, this is a woman who is trying to manipulate him and force him to come home. If she knows she killed him, if she intended to kill him, if she did hit him and leave his body there, this text message, even if she was trying to lay some sort of master plan of context to make it look like she hadn't done it, this one doesn't make any sense. This isn't a let's set up all of these fake messages so they don't think I did it. This is a woman who's like, I'm not home and your kids are home all by themselves, so I don't know what you want to do. You better just get your ass home. I mean, whatever woman you're with or whatever the hell you're doing, you're not answering your phone, but I'm not there anymore. But meanwhile, she is with the kids. She is with the kids. She's going to leave later, but she's with the kids when she sends this message. This text is trying to manipulate someone into coming home. Your kids are alone. You better get your ass home because nobody's watching them and a murderer could come in anytime and like stab their eyeballs out. But I'm not responsible because I'm gone. This makes no sense if she's not there and if she thinks he's dead. So this one text is a very, very big nail in the prosecutor's coffin, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what you guys think about that, but in the prosecution's theory of this case and their theory as to why she left all these text messages, that one text message makes no sense to me. And how do I know this? Because that was a common text message I would get from my ex. I have things to do and you're not home and I had to leave Connor and Connor's all by himself. And I'm like, yeah, right. I know where this text message comes from. I know where the frame of mind in this text message comes from. So anyway, that's just my little thought about that. That's a little tangent that I've gone on there. So I apologize. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you agree with me, but that one text message right there is, from my own personal life experience and common sense, evidence that she knew he was still alive and she knew he was doing something other than being home with her and she wanted him there. Again, Karen is single, legal vices. Yeah. Every guy has dealt with this, and maybe women have too. I don't know. I don't know if women deal with that, but I certainly have dealt with it. She's trying to get his attention. Exactly. Trying to get him home by threatening, that horrible things could happen to his children because she's no longer there when she really is. And, she would be waiting there. He comes through the door and then she lays into him for him being a dick. But all right. Anyway, we have a few things to get here through. We have For the Doggos from Amil. Amil says, for the doggos, the $2. Thank you very, very much. And Sky is a neighborhood. Said, don't you think his evidence is poor? Well, I was trying for positive. No, that's what we're doing. We're looking at the positives and the negatives of both of their closing arguments. So yeah, we have to reach for positives where we can find them. And Island with $5. I just wish Lally didn't always look so defeated. He's very Grinchy. He reminds me of the Grinch from Dr. Seuss's, the Grinch, because he's always just like, I'm frumpy, and his suit is ill-fitting. He's got some product in his hair today, so it's a little more controlled. But yeah, he just always looks defeated. That's a very good word, Island. He just looks so defeated all the time. It doesn't seem like he believes what he's saying. His tone and body language work against him so much. It makes you want to dislike him and not believe him. I completely agree with you there. Jem with the 2 pounds for the lovable potatoes. Thank you so very much. And Krista M. Crows, thank you so much for being a member for 15 months, Krista. That's very, very, very much appreciated. What if Karen just picked up the tab because she was too drunk or just trying to be nice? I used to do that many times. I used to do that when my husband and I were dating. She was with three. She left with 2 other girls. It's a group of 3 girls. Now three vodka tonics each in the space of 2 hours. That makes a lot more sense. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking she might have been buying drinks for other people. Especially based on her reverse driving agility later. CMB, what's up? CMB, one Illegal Vices membership was gifted. If you got that Illegal Vices membership, make sure you give a super special thanks to CMB. We got 3 more super chats here. Then we'll dive face first back into Lally. Eric Wolfrick with a 10. This is why he shouldn't be allowed to save all his time for a rebuttal. He's allowed to change all of his opening and anything else and go completely unopposed. That's the blessing you get being the prosecution and the right to speak last. But you have to think the jury paid attention to the evidence. The jury paid attention to Jackson's closing, and hopefully they won't be so feeble-minded that they're completely brainwashed by Lally. Canton, Virginia again with $5 more. She suspects she is babysitting his kids while he is out cheating on her. Yup. And that's her, that 1:09 a.m. text. That's her way of getting him back home. Lally is droopy dog. He does. I think we mentioned that somewhere at the beginning. I think we mentioned that once, or somebody did. He's very much a droopy dog. And I just saw that someone super chatted Law and Crime. What does that say? Chloe's friend here. Please stop the defamation. Somebody super chatted Law and Crime. Of all of the people on planet Earth that don't need a super chat, I'm pretty sure it's Law and Crime. I said that was funny. Thank you very much, Anton Ivanov. Deeply appreciated. And all the way from Paris, France, not the one in Idaho, the real Paris. Ooh la la, Pat, what's up for the doggos? Your rants make me chuckle. Aw, well, thank you very much. But we are at that point in the show, people, that one point that we like to call release the hose. We've got Strawberry here. Yoda, I believe, has already gone to sleep. So we've got Strawberry here that'll watch the rest of the proceedings here with me today. Thank you for getting us to the point of releasing the hounds. Well, it's only a hound tonight, but thank you to that. We've unlocked that particular achievement. Thank you very, very much for your support. I'll shut up now, and we can get back to what you all came here for. Lally. And I'm still watching the cord cam. Absolutely nothing is going on. It's we're just watching Ceiling Dion, the fan, just rotate quietly. That's all I've got to hear. So anything happens, we'll be all over it.
As far as it never disconnects from the Wi-Fi until the following morning. There's no indication that Ms. Reed left and went to her home in Mansfield at any point. 1:10 a.m., the defendant calls her parents. 1:11 a.m., she calls Mr. O'Keefe and leaves this voicemail.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit Amy. I need to go home. You're fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. She's sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
1:18 a.m., the defendant leaves another voicemail. Now, about 1:43 or 1:45 a.m. is when Julie Nagel testified that they were leaving the house. And she sees a large black object on the lawn near the flagpole while leaving 34 Fairview Road. Doesn't think much of it at the time. Isn't expecting.
Again, this is one of these witnesses. one of these witnesses that she is the only person that saw this. Nobody else saw it. Nobody else saw this black lump, which she said was approximately 6 feet long. The first time she ever mentioned the size of this lump was when she was on the witness stand. Never had mentioned the size of the lump before to anyone ever in all of her questioning. But she's the only. How do you cross-examine her on this? How do you prove she didn't see this? She was the only one that happened to be looking in that direction. And again, if she saw the lump, how come nobody else in the house when they were leaving saw the 6-foot lump? It's weird. But anyway, that's just another aside.
Mr. O'Keefe or any body to be out on the front lawn. 4:42 a.m. The defendant calls and speaks. The calls to her parents are finally answered. 4:49 a.m. Defendant calls Ms. Camerano, screaming, "Where's Mike?" 4:53 in the morning is when the defendant instructs Kaylee, Mr. O'Keefe's niece, to call Ms. McCabe. Why? Because the defendant doesn't have Ms. McCabe's phone number. Indicates that John didn't come home. We got in a fight and I left him at the waterfall. Those are the first statements or the first version of events that she's able to communicate out to the world as to what happened to Mr. O'Keefe and where he is. We got into a fight. I left him at the waterfall. 5 a.m., the defendant calls Kerry Roberts, saying, "John's dead, Kerry, hangs up the phone. 5:01, the defendant calls Kerry Roberts again.
Real quick, Jason J just gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. They went to Iris Goblin Cheeks. I like that. Goblin Cheeks. Me, Mary D, Anton Ivanov, and Knight 1007. Oh, Knight 01007. If you were one of those people and you got one of those Legal Vices gifted memberships, make sure you give Jason J a super special thanks. Thank you so much, Jason J, for doing that. I appreciate that.
And it's at this point that she indicates that John's dead. He must have been hit by a plow. 5:07 a.m., the defendant leaves One Meadows Ave. You have the video of that. It's number 153 in Exhibit 6. We'll get to that a little more in a moment. About 5:10 a.m.,
More nervous.
the defendant calls Kerry Roberts. Ms. Roberts starts calling hospitals, calling KPD, calling 911. Something that you would do if you didn't know where Mr. O'Keefe was.
What the hell is that? Does anyone, you don't know where somebody is. Do you call 911? Or do you first talk to the people that he was last seen with? Do you talk to the people where you left him off? Do you call your friends and go, "Hey, is John there?" You call 911. 911 is for life and death emergencies. Is it a life and death emergency when your boyfriend doesn't come home? No. Calling 911 would be stupid in this. They would be unhappy with you if you called 911 because your drunk boyfriend didn't come home last night. And Vlad Vox Production Studios also gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. It's a membership war. If you got one of those, being Christine Perkins, Choosy Heretics, Choose Carnation Revolution Now, A Fish, not the fish, just A Fish, Brandy the Baker, and Chappie. You're the lucky recipients. Make sure you give Vlad Vox Production Studios a super special thanks. And let's hear more about how it's just a natural thing to call 911 and abuse the life and death emergency system because your boyfriend hasn't come home and you haven't been bothered to call people yet.
For all of these hours that all of these other phone calls are being made and these text messages are being sent and calling your parents and all of these other things, no calls to 911 from the defendant. While John O'Keefe is laying, freezing, and dying from a brain injury and a skull fracture on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road.
And nobody on 34 Fairview Road.
5:11 a.m.
Fuck.
The defendant's vehicle is seen on the Canton Library camera heading towards the waterfall. Seems to be sort of retracing steps. 5:18 a.m. The defendant's vehicle is seen at Washington Street in Chapman on the Temple Beth Abraham video, heading in the same direction that it was the night before when it was heading to 34 Fairview Road. 5:35 is when the defendant arrives at Ms. McCabe's house. Ms. Roberts arrives shortly thereafter. Both of them see the broken taillight at that time in the driveway. Now that gap of 5:18 to 5:35 is way too much time to be driving from the area of the waterfall to Jennifer McCabe's house.
In the middle of a giant fucking blizzard, the worst blizzard the state has ever seen. I don't know. And she wasn't driving.
As I indicated a moment before, heading in the same directionality, retracing the steps from the night before, heading towards 34 Fairview Road. Why is it that the defendant can see Mr. O'Keefe when they eventually get to Fairview Road and no one else can? It's because she knew exactly where he was. She had hit him and left him there the night before. She had gone back during that time frame between 5:18 a.m. when she's seen on the Temple video and 5:35 when she arrives at Ms. McCabe's house.
Now, I'm not speaking for Karen Reed here, but if I have intentionally murdered my boyfriend by running his ass over on the front lawn of a cop's house, and I go looking for him the next day, I'm not going to make basically a beeline for the place where I murdered him. I'm going to be telling the driver, no, I don't think he was there. Why don't we go search other places? I wouldn't say, yeah, let's go to the place where I know I murdered him and left his body. Yeah, let's go there and look for him. That doesn't seem very smart. And I would like to think that she is a little brighter than that. They always return to the scene, Jeff. They always return.
5:33 is when the defendant, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts, return to One Meadows Ave searching for John. 6:03 is when the defendant, no one else, spots Mr. O'Keefe's body buried in the snow. Exhibit 12.
Was it no one else, or was it the other person that was too busy looking at the loaf of bread in the back seat to call anybody's attention to the lump she saw? She was the one that saw the lump. She didn't tell anybody. She didn't say, oh my God, what's that in your front lawn that doesn't belong there? No, she wasn't the first to see it. One of your other witnesses was, allegedly, and she didn't do fuck all about it. She's like, somebody left bread in the car. Let's go have some peanut butter and jelly. So, yeah.
Well, indicating this cruiser camera video, which I know you've seen a dozen times. So where I'm starting it from this point in this card right here is the spotlight that Officer Saraf had to use in order to locate, even with the vehicle of Ms. Roberts parked right in the middle of the road.
Look, you see your boyfriend's body in the snow and you tell the vehicle to stop. Are you really going to care where the hell it's parked at? And come on, cops, get new wipers for your car, please.
In the darkness, in the snow, in the blizzard, in those conditions, the defendant sitting in the back seat of the vehicle knows exactly where Mr. O'Keefe is, covered in snow, as you heard from all of the paramedics, from the civilian witnesses, from the first responders. The defendant knows exactly where he is. 6:07 a.m., Ms. McCabe calls 911. 6:08, the defendant leaves that 4 or 5 minute voicemail, leaving the phone in the car for some reason to Mr. O'Keefe's phone. 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning is when Ms. McCabe conducts those Google searches.
Now, I told you to keep a lookout. At the beginning today, I told you to keep a lookout for on this timeline he gives of when he definitively states that John O'Keefe was hit by her. He never did it. He never said the time. He never had the balls to assert himself and make a definitive statement, a beyond a reasonable doubt statement, to say beyond a reasonable doubt, we know she hit him at this time. The closest he comes is she makes a vague 3-point turn and reverses at one point. He hasn't definitively stated when she struck him with the vehicle.
7:50 in the morning is when Mr. O'Keefe is pronounced deceased at Good Samaritan Hospital. 4:13 to 4:20 p.m. is when the defendant's SUV is towed from her parents' house in Dighton. 5:20 p.m. is when the search team arrives in the area of 34 Fairview Road to conduct the search of evidence. 5:30 p.m. is when the defendant's vehicle arrives at the Canton Police Department south. We circle back for a moment to Mr. O'Keefe, to his families, to his friends, and to his relationship
He dropped his pen
with the defendant. We heard testimony from Paul and Aaron O'Keefe that they liked the defendant, that they thought he was good for John, thought he was good for the kids. All outward appearances of the relationship were good. We heard testimony from the children that that was not true behind closed doors. But Paul O'Keefe testified that he told the defendant's parents this, that he liked Ms. Reed, that he thought that she was good for John, thought that she was good for the kids, weeks before John's murder. He even blew her a kiss in the emergency department at Good Samaritan as he was walking out and she was still being treated while they were there.
Again, this has nothing to do with his closing argument, but isn't that really weird how she's in hysterics? They're taking blood, they're examining her for whether she needs to be put on a psychiatric hold. And he doesn't come up to her. He likes her. She's good for the kids. This terrible tragedy has happened. He doesn't come up to her in the hospital and hug her and go, "Oh my God, Karen, I can't believe this has happened. What are we going to do? Oh my God, is everything going to be all right?" He's just like sees her in this hysterics and he just goes and walks out. That's fucking weird. That's weird. And when we were watching that part live, nearly everybody in chat agreed that was really, really weird to just blow her a kiss from across the hospital hallway. Weird.
Invited her over to John's house to grieve with him, invited her to sit down with him while he explained to their nephew Patrick about John's passing. Defendant shows up at the house, abruptly goes upstairs with her father for a period of about 15 minutes, which is about half of the time that she spent there that morning grieving with the family. She left with a bag of her belongings, drove with her family there, and then took an extra vehicle in the height of the blizzard, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, drive that vehicle all the way from Canton, where it was parked at her boyfriend's house, where she stayed over on many occasions, drove that vehicle or felt the need to drive that vehicle from Canton all the way down to her parents' house in Dighton at the height of the blizzard. You heard testimony from Aaron O'Keefe of the text messages and the phone call on January 28th.
See, and he started this jumping around on the timeline, which is really confusing. He goes through everything. He's like, okay, let's double back and talk about John O'Keefe. Then he talks about all the way up through the murder and the hospital and everything. Now he's going, okay, now let's go back to the day before it happened. It's really, and he did this during his opening statements too, and nobody liked it. He's just all over. It seems very rambling and disjointed. So this is a major negative. How he's not putting things in a linear chain of events. He's just jumping back and forth and it's annoying to me. I hate it. I just don't do things that way. Xanothium 15 with a $5. When talking about the butt dials, Jackson missed the opportunity to say they were talking out of their asses on the stand. Did he miss it, or is he just above that? Thank you so much, Xanothium, for that. I appreciate that.
We've heard that Aaron O'Keefe.
And one thing I want you to notice, this is an affectation he has other than the nervous cough he just did. He is reading from his notes on a yellow notepad. All of his notes for his closing are on this yellow notepad, this legal pad. And he did this during opening statements as well. He's also got another stack of white paper that he keeps shuffling and tapping and using, from what I can see, purely as a prop. It's weird.
O'Keefe called the defendant on the morning of the 29th because she was concerned for her. She wanted to know what was going on with someone she considered her friend. The defendant yells, "John is dead." Ms. Robertson grabs the phone and then updates Aaron O'Keefe as to what's going on with John. Aaron O'Keefe again calls back later because she's concerned for someone that she considered her friend. How does the defendant respond? These are some of the little things. Defendant indicates to Ms. O'Keefe that she just has to remember the bad times and indicates to her, "I don't think I'll ever see you guys." This is after she's done her quick in and out at One Meadows Ave and is now with her parents or with her father, driving that car, essentially taking the murder weapon from Canton and bringing it down to her parents' house in Dayton. She's indicating over the phone to Aaron O'Keefe, "I don't think I'll ever see you guys." Why? If she didn't kill John, why would she say it? You heard a lot of testimony about New Year's Eve in Aruba. You heard the testimony from Ms. O'Keefe in regard to them exchanging her.
And now this is a major negative for me in his closing arguments, this Aruba stuff. The fact that this argument in Aruba that happened a month before the incident even got into the trial, I think is ridiculous. It has no business in the trial. It shows nothing. The only reason it was in there was to show her character and her propensity to commit this crime, or the motivation she had. It's pointless. It should not have been in here. And him bringing it up again is ridiculous. And I think people can see that. They made up before the end of the trip. They made it before the end of the day. This argument they had in Aruba. It was bad form for him to do this. And I would hope that the jury has the same reaction I do, which is, dude, why are you even bringing up this shit that has nothing to do with the event that happened so far in the past? Why are you bringing this up? Great success, as if Karen was that innocent. Why 3 days? Well, they could be doing their job and looking over the evidence, making sure everything is going well. And remember, Kyle Rittenhouse was as innocent as you get, and that was a 4-day affair with Kyle Rittenhouse jury. So they could just be doing their job.
Her and the defendant exchanging text messages on the flight down, arranging times to meet up. And then the defendant telling Aaron via text message that she caught Johnny kissing Laura's sister in the hotel lobby. She got into an argument about it, and then they never met up. Meaning the defendant, Mr. O'Keefe, got into an argument about it, and she and Aaron O'Keefe never ended up meeting up in Aruba. Her testimony consisted of Laura Sullivan, Marietta
Great
Sullivan,
success.
well
He's allowed to use
the kiss never happened.
all caps.
It never would happen
for reasons
based on the relationship, the godfather relationship that John O'Keefe had with Laura Sullivan, her family, and particularly Laura Sullivan's child. The defendant persists with this unfounded suspicion and accusations of infidelity in her text messages with Mr. O'Keefe, in her text messages with Mr. Higgins, where she's accusing Mr. O'Keefe of making out in the lobby with Marietta Sullivan. Both of the Sullivans and the children.
Then why wouldn't she kill him and leave his body in Aruba?
Mr. O'Keefe, following this incident,
why would she wait a month
going into a room? Both of the children testified that they're in that room for about 20 to 25 minutes, and they're arguing about the defendant indicating that Mr. O'Keefe kissed someone in the lobby. And you have Laura Sullivan's testimony about 20 to 25 minutes after her sister comes out and states her displeasure about the defendant. It's about 20 to 25 minutes before Mr. O'Keefe comes out. And then he and Ms. Sullivan have a conversation. Ms. Sullivan indicates that Mr. O'Keefe's phone is essentially blowing up, lighting up with calls and texts from the defendant. I would submit similar to the afternoon of January 28th. Mr. O'Keefe says she's crazy and he needs to take this and goes off. And Ms. Sullivan has later conversations with Mr. O'Keefe on this Aruba trip, asked him if he's okay, asked him if he's happy. She indicated in her testimony that Mr. O'Keefe shrugs it off and says it is what it is. You heard testimony from the children about the arguments in the weeks and the months. And I know this is a displeasure to defense counsel that the children came in and actually testified as to what happened behind closed doors in the house.
It's a displeasure to the defense that the children testify. I'm going to tell you something, Lally. I would guess that the fact that these children who lost their own mother and father in a very short period of time were rehomed, unlike Chloe, to a farm in Vermont. They were rehomed to their uncle's house. Then they lose their uncle. And then you drag their ass into court to ask them about private family affairs. And the best you can get out of them is they argued a month ago about somebody kissing somebody else. And sometimes Uncle John would get mad at Ms. Reed because she was too nice to us and too generous. I tell you what, the jury, the ones that have children, probably strongly dislike you calling people that have no knowledge, children who have no knowledge of anything that happened on the night in question, the only night that really matters, and putting them on the stand and putting them through that. They probably don't like you, and you should not have reminded them that you brought children. You brought minor children and put them on the stand and forced them to testify. You probably shouldn't have brought that up.
They both recall frequent fights. They both recall Mr. O'Keefe trying multiple times to break up with the defendant, asking her to leave the house, the defendant refusing to leave the house. His niece, Kaylee, John tried to diffuse, tried to walk away, and the defendant would follow each time during each argument. They both indicated that Mr. O'Keefe had told the defendant that the relationship had run its course, similar to language within the text messages you have between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe. That Mr. O'Keefe was sick of arguing, again, mirroring those text messages from January 28th. Leading up into
she was the one in the text messages saying, "Are we done? Is this over? I can walk away right now and you'll never see me again." It was Karen that was saying, "If it's over, just tell me." And he's like, no, it's not over. It's nope. Look, I can't deal with this now. Talk to me later. Don't bother me now. It's you're living in reverso Sally Port video land, Lally.
To see if McCarthy is eventually the waterfall, and the defendant killing Mr. O'Keefe in the early morning hours of January 29th. We have testimony in regard to the ring camera.
The ring.
Haley indicated in her testimony that John had that for about a year. So during the course of 2 years or so of the relationship with the defendant, he got it while he was dating the defendant. The defendant had the security code for the garage. Neither of the kids had access to the camera. Trooper Garino checked the laptop and the desktop that were left after the defendant did the quick cleanup upstairs with the father, upstairs in the home. Neither of those devices had access to the ring cameras. John had access on his phone. The defendant indicates, if you recall, in some of those text messages in regard to the romantic kiss that she placed on Mr. Higgins earlier on January, whatever it was, during the Patriots. Mr. Higgins and Mr. Jackson was indicating weren't very good friends with Mr. O'Keefe, but had been invited over to his home for a Patriots game, at which time the defendant escorted Mr. Higgins out of the garage and placed a romantic kiss on him. But during those text messages, when they're talking about that, if you recall, the defendant is saying something or joking about something that Mr. O'Keefe had been looking at the videos and had been asking her if there was something going on with her and Mr. Higgins. And what was her response? I know where the cameras are. There are only 2 videos missing from that ring system. One being the defendant getting to Mr. O'Keefe's house after murdering him, and the other when the defendant is showing Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts the broken taillight, both of which, both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts testified as having occurred. No.
Oh yeah, so somewhat. All right, I just choked on my own saliva because I was upset. Hang on. You have. Oh my fucking hell! My blood pressure is just spiking here. Okay, you have him saying that these witnesses said that we were at her house and we walked around and she showed us the tail light and said it was cracked and broken, but there's no ring video of it. Okay, what's your options? Either she somehow deleted the ring video or it never fucking happened. Guess what? If it never happened, there's not going to be a ring video of it happening, is there, Lally? Just saying. I've got my video camera here, and you didn't see it, but for some reason, while I was 5 minutes late. I said I was 5 minutes late for the stream because I didn't actually click the go live button, but actually there was a bunch of aliens right here behind me, and I deleted the video. Which do you think is more likely? It never happened, so therefore it's not on film, or went through the process of finding that particular video and deleting it? And this is a very good point. Salty Spittoon, there is a video of the time she's talking about. They all just walked past the car. Lally showed the video. Yeah, he said that this is when he said all this happened and there was no video. And then the next video he showed was them pulling up, and they made a beeline for the garage. Nobody went near the rear of that vehicle. Nobody. They all went straight into the house. But they're saying, oh, they deleted the video. They said that she walked around there, but they deleted that video. Frustrating. It frustrates me to no end. Squizgar 2322 poll: guilty holdout or not guilty holdout? We might do that soon. That might be something we're doing here. OnlyFans fangirling, says Aussie Tank. Hashtag OnlyFans. Thank you so much. Yeah, we do have Ceiling Dion just rotating here on the video screen to my left. If I were on the jury by this time, I'd be making a mental grocery list. Checked out. Well, was it Turtle Boy, or was it the the Fall River Reporter? Somebody said that during Lally's closing, a couple of the jurors yawned, others looked bored, and one of them looked like they may be falling asleep. So apparently they weren't really overwhelmed by it, but that doesn't mean anything when it comes down to deliberations, unfortunately. And there we are. That's what we've got out of the way. And while we're here, let's check in on our like and subscribe poll. Why don't we do that? By the way, we are only 88 lawyer math. We're 88 likes away from 1,000 likes. That'd be super awesome if we got to 1,000 likes. We got 1,420 people here and 913 likes. We could be up to 1,400 likes at least if everybody just got down there and smashed that like button. The like and subscribe and vote poll: the jury deliberations will take 8 to 10 hours. 26% of you said that. Well, we're 15. I think we're in the 10th hour now. So you 8 to 10 hour people, you're wrong. The 26% of you, this is a very, very close poll. 26, 27, 22, 24%. 27% said 10 to 12 hours. That's the window we're in now. We're in the 10 to 12 hour window now. And I cast my lots with that one as well. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I hope I'm right. 12 to 15 hours, 22% of you said that, and 24% said more than 15 hours, which is going to put us into tomorrow effectively. So already a quarter of you are wrong. It's just up to the remaining 3/4 of us to see who's right. We'll check in on this poll here in a little bit later. We're making good time going through Lally's closing here because we're not being interrupted by the jury doing shenanigans.
Video.
Let's see. We did get a couple more super chats while I was talking, so let's do these before we get too far behind. Where did we go? Jordan Patterson, not to be confused with Jordan Peterson. This is Jordan Patterson with a $5. So Karen magically deleted videos that didn't show deleted in the program. Yep. But Jen McCabe calls and searches that show deleted, ignored those. Yeah. The hose long to die in the cold at 2:37. Yep. And Adair K, member for 1 month already. What a quick month it's been. John was the only one that had access to the Ring cameras. Karen didn't have login information. Yeah, and when the police got in, they didn't find anything. They didn't, and as Jordan said, they didn't find any evidence that they'd been deleted. This is just Lally being dishonest.
A variety of stories that the defendant tells on the morning of January 29th. There were text messages and voicemails from the defendant to Mr. O'Keefe, 53 phone calls from 12:33 a.m. to 6:03 a.m. 0 phone calls to 911. And the defendant calls Katie Camerano.
Before she calls Katie Camerano, I just want to say we got over 1,000 likes now. We got 1,028 likes. Thank you so much. Let's see how high it'll go. That'd be super awesome. There's 1,433 of you here. We've currently also got 77,281 subscribers. We are 19 subscribers away from 77,300. 19 away. I think we can get there. We could probably get all the way to 77,400 if we wanted to. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, I would be just pleased as punch if you would do that. Let's see how high we can get that as well. And for those of you that are waiting for the next trial, next week, well, hopefully this thing won't go on for a week. That would be really weird and really, really bad. But next week should be a fairly calm week. There's a few things that are planned. But the following week, beginning July 8th on Monday, that will be the beginning of the Alec Baldwin trial. Be here for that. We're going to cover it gavel to gavel, front to back, beginning to end. That's the only thing you want to cover front to back. Always cover things front to back. Just saying. But also do stay tuned for next Friday. Next Friday evening U.S. time will be a birthday stream. It'll be my birthday next Friday, so I don't know what I'm going to do, but join me for that.
Then it calls her parents at 1:18 in the morning, 4:38 in the morning, 4:42 in the morning. The call then from Kaylee's phone to Ms. McCabe, because the defendant didn't have Ms. McCabe's phone number. Both Kaylee and Ms. McCabe indicate that the defendant initially indicates or says that she got into a fight with Mr. O'Keefe and left him at the waterfall. From this information, Ms. McCabe then testifies she starts to call Julie Albert. Because Chris Albert, Julie Albert, they live close by the waterfall. Maybe that's where he went. As the phone is ringing, this is a phone call that both Ms. Albert and Ms. McCabe testify was never answered. As the phone is ringing, her husband, Matthew McCabe, reminds her that they saw the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe and the car outside of 34 Fairview. So she hangs up. During this call, or during these subsequent calls, the defendant indicates to Ms. McCabe, maybe I hit him, did I hit him? She then calls Ms. Roberts at 5 a.m. on the dot, indicates John's dead, hangs up the phone, calls back a minute later, indicates that Mr. O'Keefe was now hit by a plow and that he's dead. And then indicates further that she's drunk and doesn't remember. She tells Ms. McCabe about the cracked taillight before they even get in the vehicle and go anywhere, as you recall the testimony of Matthew McCabe, indicating that he had some concerns about them driving around in a vehicle with a damaged taillight in the middle of a blizzard. Ms. Roberts' testimony that she saw the broken taillight in the driveway at Ms. McCabe's house, and that it was consistent with what she observed in the photographs that were shown to her of it later in the Sally Port at the Canton Police Department garage when the search warrant is executed on February 1st. The You have the text messages between the defendant and Lord Sullivan from January 29th, in which the defendant indicates to Lord Sullivan that John is dead, indicates that we found him in the snow at 5 a.m. And every indication is that he was found in the snow by the defendant, Mr. McCabe, and Ms. Roberts around 6 a.m. 5 a.m. be about an hour before. 5 a.m.
And now we're going
would be
backwards
between that time of where the defendant is unaccounted for, heading in the direction of 34 Fairview Road, 5:18, 5:35. Little things. The defendant asked Ms. McCabe to Google how long to die in the cold. She did so at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning. You have the testimony of Ms. Hyde and Mr. Whitford as to SQLite databases, P-list databases, Knowledge C databases, state DB tabs, as far as all of them, also from Trooper Garino as well. These searches were unequivocally done at 6:23, 6:24 in the morning, and not at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the morning. They were not deleted by a user. That is not what deleted means. Frankly, Mr. Green, the last question that I asked Mr. Green is, was he aware that Cellbrite, and by Cellbrite, the person who designed that being Mr. Whiffen,
Mr. Whiffen, the British guy, did not design Cellbrite. Lally, you're confused or you're a fucking liar. He did not design Cellbrite. He made his own program for analyzing data from Cellbrite because Cellbrite's own native analysis software apparently wasn't good enough and didn't do the job that he needed done. So he developed his own software that we're supposed to believe is accurate. So yeah, to say that he developed Cellbrite, fuck off.
had to alter exactly how their software worked because of people like Mr. Green misinterpreting the data as he did in this case. And what did Mr. Green say? Yes. But those questions, as far as how long to die in the cold, I would submit mirror the questions that the defendant asked firefighter Whitley in the back of the ambulance, if you recall those. She asked firefighter Whitley how long to die in the cold without a jacket. He knew how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed. She knew when she left him to die in the cold how he was dressed. The defendant made statements to firefighter Becker that the last time that she saw Mr. O'Keefe, they were in an argument. Again, in the back of the same ambulance as firefighter Whitley. You have testimony from firefighter Woodbury. Same kind of questions. If Mr. O'Keefe could be alive without a jacket. You have the testimony from each of these firefighters as to sort of the vacillating emotional state of the defendant that morning. What you have in the testimony from firefighter Woodbury is that despite all that, there were no tears that he observed from the defendant at that time.
All right. And again, I think this is a big misstep for Lally. A big misstep. Gets huge minus points, from me anyway, on his closing arguments for this. There were no tears. Karen Reed wasn't crying, as if that's somehow indicative of her guilt. Everybody processes sadness differently. Some people are criers. Some people are the in shock type. Some people are just the confused and dazed. Some people deny it. See, if you cry, it's, she knew she had killed him, and that was proof of her guilt. If she doesn't cry, that's because she's emotional. It's because she knew it and it was proof of her guilt. Crying as evidence that you did or did not commit murder is absolute trash. It's absolute garbage, and I fucking hate Lally for doing this. Look, my brother was killed on New Year's Eve in a drunk driving accident. Weirdly, I didn't cry for about 4.5 years. Weirdly, the time that I actually shed tears over that was when I got to the same age as my older brother and went, holy shit, he died young. That was the only time that I cried. My mother died. I didn't cry. I'm not that kind of person. I'll cry over some stupid fucking little cartoon puppy dog somewhere on TV. You know, I get teary-eyed at Star Trek episodes, for God's sake. I'm just a big pussy when it comes to like manufactured scenarios, but in real life scenarios, I get very, very serious. I get very, very introspective when there's injuries, when there's deaths. And I think, you know, what's my tears going to solve? My tears don't make anything better. So I don't, and the weird thing when like I said, I told you the first time I cried regarding my brother, when my mother died, it was probably 2 or 3 years after that was the first time that I cried, but it wasn't because of my mother. It's because during the funeral, I almost cried during the funeral because one of the members of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir was good friends with our family, and she sang a beautiful rendition of "How Great Thou Art," which was so beautiful that just her singing nearly brought me to tears. But then a few years later, when I heard the entire Mormon Tabernacle Choir singing "How Great Thou Art," that reminded me of my mother's funeral, which then led to tears. But saying that someone wasn't crying on the morning that their boyfriend died, that is bullshit. And I hate Lally for doing this. I think this is a cheap, stupid, disgusting thing to do. Yeah, you dictating how others mourn is just gross. Yeah, you must cry, or that's evidence you did it. And you know that if they did it, you know that if she did cry, it would be, oh, she was crying because she knew she did it. I just, it's despicable and it's disgusting, and I hate it. That's sorry for that little rant, but this triggered me when he did it, and it triggered me again now. I hate when people tell you have to cry when bad things happen to people. Some do, some don't. It has nothing to do with whether or not they did it. I cry when I hear taps. Everybody, like, hell, sometimes you need a good cry. And I have this weird thing. This is one of my weird things. I'm letting you in on a really weird, private, personal part of my life here. You know, sometimes you just need to get it out. You've got all the stress in your life and there's no one to talk to. And you just need to vent it out. If I want one of those, like, I want to cry movies, I put on Forrest Gump. And I don't know why, but that show makes me bawl like an idiot. But I'm much more practical in real life. So anyway, I hate that. It pisses me off and I'm annoyed, and Lally can just suck it as far as I'm concerned. All right. I cry watching animal shows. Yeah. I cried for my husband when he died until the next morning when I woke up alone. That's sad. So there you go. Anyway, I just got sidetracked. I just hate when they do that in trials and things, telling people how they're supposed to grieve and what the real proof of innocence is, because there's no right answer.
What each of those first responders indicate is that the defendant repeatedly stated, is he dead? Is he dead? Not, is he okay? Is he going to be okay? How is he? Any sort of questions about the medical condition.
Oh my God, I forgot he said that too. That's her big deal. No, she didn't ask if he's okay. She asked, is he dead? Seeking confirmation that she did the deed. If I'm going to be asking, is he dead too? You know, get to the point. He's been laying in a snowbank. He's sitting there. I watch these people trying to do CPR on him, doing chest compressions. They're putting warm fluids into his body. Everybody's in the hospital. Nobody's telling me anything. Is he dead? That's a perfectly valid question, you idiot. That's not confirming. Oh, is he dead? Is he really dead? Is he really dead? No, dude, get off it.
Is he dead? That phraseology repeated over and over again. And when you take into juxtaposition that phraseology, text to Laura Sullivan, found him in the snow at 5 a.m. The unaccounted for time heading in the direction of 34 Fairview Road, 5:18 to 5:35. the repeated questioning, firefighter Whitney, firefighter Woodbury, asking Ms. McCabe to look up those things in her phone. She's looking for confirmation, is what she's looking for. When she asks over and over again, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead?
Looking for confirmation that she did the deed. That's just stupid. I've got to go liberate this bone from where it's gotten stuck so that we don't have to listen to Yoda trying to dig for it. I'll be right back here in just a second.
You have the testimony that you heard from Ms. McCabe.
Oh, never mind. Yoda got it.
I say them together because,
good job, buddy.
As far as these two women were concerned, they did not know each other really at all. The only time, as they both testified to, that they ever spent appreciably together prior to January 29th, 2022, is when Mr. O'Keefe nicely took them out for sneakers because he had some sort of deal at a Reeboks outlet or something like that to sort of try to pay them back for the help that they provided him and the children. Jennifer, with respect to
I
police,
forgot about
Terry,
that.
with
I've got to
respect
watch. I forgot season 2 started.
But they're both contacted by the defendant in the early morning of January 29th. As Ms. McCabe testified, John was my friend. I love John. He was an amazing guy. At the waterfall, Mr. Alberts said going home to have a drink with his son, Brian Jr., if anyone wants to come. Open invitation to the table. She said to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, you guys should come. Both the defendant and the victim indicated that they wanted to come and that they were coming. She describes the phone calls and the text messages that she receives from Mr. O'Keefe that she's providing directions. She indicates she's providing them directions to go down Chapman. She describes how that is. And you've heard this testimony from a couple of different witnesses as far as the steepness as you're going down Chapman, going down Fairview or coming off of Chapman. That you first go down a big steep hill. It flattens out for a little bit, and then you go down a second 2 hills going down on Chapman.
So,
matching the GPS native location and the health data as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's phone is, a half mile away from 34 Fairview Road at the time that his health data is reporting that he's ascending or descending 3 flights of stairs. You hear the testimony from Ms. McCabe as far as the last time that she spoke to Mr. O'Keefe. She's still trying to provide directions to Fairview because Mr. O'Keefe has never been there before and neither has the defendant, which is further corroborated in Trooper Garino's testimony as far as the vehicle passing by Fairview and then coming back in on the other side, having to reverse direction. But she's giving directions and she indicates that she uses a house that Mr. O'Keefe will be familiar with, that belonging to Bella or Bella's mom. Bella's mom is an ex-girlfriend for a short period of time, a long time ago. However, in the defendant's mind, it's so prescient on her mind that she's still talking about it the next morning or later on that morning when she's riding, going towards Fairview Road with Miss Roberts and Miss McCabe in Miss Roberts' car. She's still talking about it at that time. It's that much on her mind. Ms. McCabe indicated that she looked out and she saw the vehicle initially in front of the front door, as did Mr. McCabe, as did Brian Albert Jr., as did Julie Nagel, as did Brian Nagel, and the vehicle moved up several times to several spots to where it was then positioned. Initially at some point in front of the door, then it moves up.
Does he look like he's excited about his case? Does he look like he's engaged in his argument? He's just laying there. He's got the fake documents in one hand. He's just leaning over on the podium. He's talking monotone and he's just mumbling through his deal. Does he look like he's trying to convince you that some woman murdered her boyfriend? He just looks so disengaged, disinterested. And the suit, I'm sure it's a great suit if you look at it in person, but it's ill-fitting. I mean, the sleeves are baggy and long, and it's probably not, but it looks like it's faded. It just looks frumpy. His hair looks frumpy. I think someone's mentioned Droopy Dog. He looks like the Vincent D'Onofrio character in Men in Black, the guy that like had all the bugs inside of him. He just looks like he doesn't fit into his own skin. And appearance and presentation is a big part of your arguments, whether he should be or not. It is.
Further, so that it's in the area of the fire hydrant and the flagpole where Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered later on that morning, at least by Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts. and then moves up further beyond that. And I say that in the sense that it moves up further beyond that with sufficient distance for it to then go in reverse for 62.5 feet at 24.2 miles per hour, striking Mr. O'Keefe and leaving him where he was found later on the 29th. Again, the testimony from Ms. McCabe that about 12:40 when she's texting him.
See, we've got, he hit him, and then now let's go back again to 12:40. He just does this. He goes forward, then he jumps back, then he goes forward again, then he jumps back again. This is so disjointed. And I'm just trying to, once I finally realize, okay, we're talking about the end of the story, then he jumps back to the beginning, and I've got to reset my brain again to go, okay, what's going on at this point in time? What happened just before this? What happened just after that? And by the time I fucking figure out what's going on there, he's already back at the end of the accident again, and then I've got to catch up again. This going back and forth is really, really bad. The jury, it's like with anything, you're always playing catch up with his closing argument. You're always trying to catch up with where he is, and by the time you catch up to where he's at and wrap your mind around what he's talking about, he's moved on, and you got to play catch up again. I don't think it's called baffle with bullshit. It's called disorganization and not being prepared and not knowing how to tell an engaging story. Can you imagine if you read a novel, if you read a crime novel where everything went ahead and then they went back and they talked to some other people, then it went up again, then it went to the hospital, then it went back to the night before, then it went up to the accident again, then it went back to Aruba a month before the accident, then it went up to something that was happening on the day before, and then it went back up to the accident, then it went back. You would throw this book in the garbage in a very short period of time because it's disjointed, it's disengaging, it's difficult to follow, and it's essentially incomprehensible.
Indicated in her testimony, she couldn't be certain if Mr. O'Keefe was still out front or had left at that point. She wakes up to a phone call from John's niece, Kaylee, 4:53 in the morning. This is from an 8th grader, 14-year-old girl. That's why she answers the phone at 4:53 in the morning.
And will someone please tell me what the fuck? I'm sorry, I've been swearing a lot tonight. Will someone please tell me what the heck that means? This part here.
8th grader, or had left at that point.
What does this mean?
Wakes up to a phone call from John's niece, Kaylee, 4:53 in the morning. This is from an 8th grader, 14-year-old girl. That's why she answers the phone at 4:53 in the morning.
Okay, so that's the third time I've heard this, and now it makes sense. The first time, see, that's the problem with his delivery. For the first time, I thought he was saying it was the niece that answered the phone because she was an 8th grader. And I thought, what does that mean? The niece answered the phone at 5 o'clock in the morning because she's an 8th grader? Now, the third time I've heard it, I finally understand that he's saying the opposite. Whoever it was, I've totally just forgotten in the last 5 seconds, the person that was being called answered the phone because a young girl was calling them at 5 o'clock in the morning. But that's why she answered the phone. So I get it now. His storytelling is so weirdly disjointed. Though literally, if you call me in the afternoon, there's a damn good chance I'm not answering. But if somebody calls me in the middle of the night, I figure it's never for a good reason and it needs to be answered. So, yeah, I'm completely with you there. And Britt Cormier, what's up with the $5? 100% agree. Listening to a closing argument should not remind me of Quentin Tarantino films or a James Joyce novel. It shouldn't be Lally's interpretation of Ulysses, for God's sake, where things are almost always told out of order, or like Memento, where it's a backwards movie. So Karen says, we did this, didn't we? Nice try getting a twofer, but we already read this. Sorry. Duncan, Idaho. There is literally physically no possible way for her to have hit him as Lally describes with what injuries he had. Not in our universe anyway. I could not agree with you more. And Skoda says Lally's actually making things harder than necessary. 1000% agree. What does he have to prove? 67, 68 witnesses that she was drunk, she was driving, he got out, she hit him and drove away. That's all he's got to prove. And they need nearly 70 witnesses and all this BS to try to make his point. So I'm with you there.
She then hears the defendant screaming loudly over and over again, Jen. John didn't come home, got in a fight, left him at the waterfall. The variations, different iterations of that story as it evolves and changes over the course of that morning. Ms. McCabe then indicates to the defendant, we saw you outside of my sister's house. Then she starts yelling, Jen, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Then they start discussing, or the defendant brings up her cracked tail. Then both Ms. McCabe and Mr. McCabe hear the defendant screaming outside of their home at about 5 o'clock in the morning, or shortly after 5 o'clock. They go to Mr. O'Keefe's house. And both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicates, and you heard this testimony from a number of different witnesses, friends and family of Mr. O'Keefe, that he had a rule, pretty strict rule in his house as far as you take your shoes off when you come in the house. So what did Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts both do when they're entering in that house on January 29th? They take off their boots, they come out in the snow, they take off their boots in the mudroom, and then they walk in. What did they both indicate that the defendant did that morning when she came back to the house? Walked right in with the shoes. You hear that second voicemail. It's after the defendants arrived back at One Meadows Ave, after her phone is reconnected with Mr. O'Keefe's Wi-Fi. And you can hear the footsteps. Part of that may be in the garage, part of that might be in the house. Why is it that the defendant has no issue with wearing shoes in the house when Mr. O'Keefe has that strict rule? Because she knows where he is.
Because she knows where he is. That's why she wore the shoes in the house against his wishes, because she knew she murdered him and he was bleeding out on the floor. And she was just waiting. She was just waiting till she could kill that fucker so that she could wear her shoes in the house. By God, he's dead. I killed him. Now I'll decide who wears the shoes in this house. O'Keefe. That's what he's saying. Oh, please. Oh, please. Now, many of you may know that I live here in Korea, and Korea, Japan, China, you take your shoes off. In the end, there's a special entryway in every single house where it's like the shoe taking off area. You take your shoes off and you leave them there. Sometimes they'll have slippers for you to wear. Sometimes they don't. That's just what you do. There has been many a night when I've had a drink or two, and I'll come home and then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll go, oh, my shoes are by my bed. And I've been taking my shoes off, not only for the 35, almost 36 years I've lived in Korea, but hell, when I was a kid growing up in Utah, my mother she would practically have to whoop my ass with a stick to get me to put my shoes on, because I never wore shoes in the house ever. But there's times when, even though I've never been wearing shoes in my house my entire life, I'll come in and I'll be a little tired, a little drunk maybe, and I'll forget to take my shoes off, and I'll go, oh, that was kind of weird. But like the fact that I know I murdered him and he's dead in the snowbank, now I can wear shoes in the house. By God, that is so ridiculous. That is such an embarrassingly stupid argument, Lally. He should literally be ashamed of himself for thinking up something that stupid to say.
She knows it's not an issue. He's not coming home because she hit him with her SUV and she left him in the snow. Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe are frantically sort of running around the house looking for Mr. O'Keefe, and it's not. They then get in the vehicle. They drive back towards Fairview Road, and again, the defendant from the back seat of the vehicle immediately sees the defendant, starts pulling and kicking on the door, and runs in sort of a beeline straight over to where Mr. O'Keefe is laying on the front lawn.
Well, she sees him on the front lawn, starts trying to get out of the car. They stop the car, and then she runs in a beeline towards. What's she supposed to do? Run around the fucking block before she runs to him? Is that what she's supposed to do? of course she's going to run straight for him. That's the whole point of them being out searching. Ah, there he is. I better not run in a beeline. Someone will think I did it. So I'm just going to take a stroll around the block counterclockwise before I go to his body. Lally, you are sounding more and more ridiculous at this point.
You have the testimony from Ms. Roberts as far as
Shuffle those papers
John's
you're not
phone.
really looking at for your arguments.
John's phone, when the firefighters pick him up, and you recall several witnesses testifying about that, pick him up on the scoop stretcher and they bring him over to the ambulance while they're conducting resuscitative efforts trying to save Mr. O'Keefe's life. Ms. Roberts indicated that she observed underneath only the phone on the grass in the area that is completely covered in snow in every other area except under Mr. O'Keefe. So I would submit indicates how long Mr. O'Keefe has been there. Now recall, around 12 o'clock or so is when it starts to snow and it starts to stick a little bit. You heard all that testimony. And I know it was a lot of testimony about snow, a lot of testimony about weather, but there's a purpose to that. There's a point to that, okay? As far as the grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe's body, where his cell phone was, Ms. Roberts observed some 6 hours later after it starts snowing, it's still visible only under Mr. O'Keefe where his body is. So I would submit as evidence to you as to how long he's been there. Now, on top of that, you also have hours of ring videos of the driveway as far as shoveling and Paul O'Keefe and other people snow blowing and shoveling and all those kinds of things. There's a purpose to that as well. If you look at those, if you look at the video of the defendant crashing into Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle at a speed of anywhere from 0 to 5, which even Dr. Wolf would indicate would not cause the damage to the taillight that was observed in this case. You know what you don't see? You don't see snow move up.
There's another dishonest statement. He said that a crash at 5 miles an hour wouldn't destroy the tail light the way it was utterly destroyed and presented by you. He didn't say it wouldn't cause the crack that was observed by some of your other witnesses. That is a completely knowingly dishonest and disingenuous interpretation of what the witness said. That's some BS right there. Yeah, he said that a 5 mile an hour accident wouldn't cause it to break into 47 pieces and leave virtually no red on that right side tail light.
Off Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle when they come into contact. You don't see any red or clear plastic pieces in the snow. And if you look at those stills, not the ones that counsel put up there during his closing, but if you look at each of the video and the stills, you can see the damage consistent with the taillight at each and every point.
Yeah, not
see
really.
The damage consistent with the taillight from the 507 video.
Why don't you show us? Notice how he's not showing us. He's just saying the 507 video shows you this. Why don't you show us? And he said, don't pay attention to those things that the defense showed you in their closing. Those things that the defense showed in their closing was his evidence. It was his witnesses' evidence that he just told the jurors not to pay attention to. Keep that in mind. Roach hunting. Rage hunting. Sorry. That was awkward. Rage hunting says, like Lally's case changed and evolved. Exactly. Absolutely. And Andrew Hansen with the $2. If the shoe left grit, you must not acquit. Okay, that was a stretch. It was good, but it was a bit of a stretch. Thank you, Andrew Hansen. And Roro Mod, what's up, Roro Mad? So every time she wore her shoes indoors, she killed someone. Could Karen Reed be a prolific serial killer? Oh, I don't think so. She was just waiting to murder him so she could take control of the house and wear her goddamn heels in the house if she goddamn well wants to. And Canton, Virginia, the prosecution told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. Well, And to take it one step further, the prosecution told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears that the prosecution gave you. It was their final, most essential command. Straight up. And this is way too long of a discussion to get into here, but Watcher says, Legal Vices, why did you move to Korea? Very, very quickly, 1988 to 1990, I was here as a very young, fresh-faced LDS missionary. Then from 91 through 92, I was an exchange student at Busan National University. Then I did my senior year of university, and then I went to law school. I came here during vacations, and then in my third year of law school, they offered me a job here, and I've been working for a law firm here in Korea for the last 28 years. So my 36th year in Korea anniversary is coming up on September 21st. That's the very, very nutshell story of how I got here.
There's some damage consistent from the A22 video from Lieutenant Ray from the cruiser camera video when he's pulling into the driveway. You see the damage consistent from the Dighton video at the defendant's home. You see the damage consistent from the right here, February 1st, 2022, when the search warrant is conducted, Ms. Hartnett removes all those pieces from the vehicle. The weather is also important when it comes to the hair. The magic hair, as Mr. Jackson likes to call it. So the magic hair was actually frozen to the vehicle.
Yes,
as
Tourette's
was the
Majestic,
glass
I was.
to the bumper, because the vehicle looked like that on the left when it was caked in snow, when Officer Barrow saw it in the driveway in Dighton as they were wading through 1.5 feet of snow, walking up, because remember, they didn't even pull into the driveway because they had to have someone come down and plow it before they could get into it. That's what the vehicle looked like. What you can see, however, is the damage to the taillight, to the side of that taillight, consistent with it. So that hair, that 7/8 of an inch hair, was frozen to the side. And as you remember,
that's his explanation. That's his explanation for how that 7/8 of an inch hair that was stuck to the side of the car survived a 75-mile-an-hour round trip through one of the most severe blizzards in recent years, was because it was frozen to the side. It wasn't frozen to the side when she started. Let's just assuming she hit him. It wasn't frozen to the side immediately after she hit him. How come it didn't just blow off at that point? How long does a hair take to freeze onto the side of a car, whatever the hell that even means? So it wasn't frozen for a good period of time after. And then what happens when you put it here in the Sally port and all the snow melted? And see, I want to know if the snow melted, if they waited for it to melt, or if they kind of brushed off the snow. But either way, when all that melting water, all that water's melting off the car, the snow is melting, it's flowing off. How did that hair still remain on the side of the vehicle? That wasn't explained either. So the hair was frozen on the side of the car is his explanation.
testimony from Sergeant Buchanan about the heated condition of the Canton Police Department garage, and that's one of the reasons that they took it there, because the other barracks that they could have taken it to didn't have that heated condition. So yes, after it's been in there from January 29th, about 5:30 p.m. until February 1st, when they conduct the search warrant, the hair isn't still frozen as it's contained within heated garage, and the pieces of glass on the rear bumper have melted. The snow has melted, as you can see from left to right.
And where did those pieces of glass on the bumper come from?
Weather, also important, I would submit. Weather was a weapon. Remember, the cause of death here is not just wanting.
What in the shit does that even mean? The weather was a weapon. The weather was a weapon. She used the weather as a weapon.
Impact injuries, blunt impact injuries, and hypothermia. You heard all that medical testimony in relation to it, and you heard all that testimony in relation to the snow and the weather and the wind. Wind gusts up to 37 miles per hour while he's out. Mr. O'Keefe is out there in just a shirt and jeans. Now, you heard also testimony from Ms. Roberts in relation to the injuries she observed to Mr. O'Keefe. That's initially on scene. There was one eye that was swollen, not the other. That's indication of the swelling that Dr. Scortibella was testifying to, and no indication of physical altercation.
Did you hear what his dumb ass just said? He has one eye swollen and the other eye not. So one eye is swollen, the other is not. So therefore, there is no indication of a physical alteration. No, he literally just said that. Someone with one swollen eye. That's no evidence whatsoever of any physical altercation. What is more evidence of a physical alteration than a dude with a swollen eye? Is if someone comes in after a Friday night of drinking with friends, you see them on Saturday morning and they have a swollen eye and maybe a bandage from a cut, are you going to go, holy shit, you were hit in the face with an SUV, are you okay? Or are you going to say, who'd you get in a fight with, dumbass? Which one are you going to go with? You see a guy with a swollen eye and your go-to reaction is, oh my God, you were hit by a car? Listen, this was just appalling and shocking to me that he would say this. One swollen eye is no evidence whatsoever of a physical altercation.
On scene, there was one eye that was swollen, not the other. That's indication of the swelling that Dr. Sportibella was testifying to, and no indication of physical altercation.
No indication of
both
physical
eyes being
altercation.
swollen when Ms. Roberts viewed Mr. O'Keefe's body after his passing at the Good Samaritan.
I don't even understand that argument at all.
Submit that all the testimony tells you the same consistent account, internally, externally, from civilian testimony to investigator testimony to medical testimony to forensic testimony to the reconstruction testimony. You have the testimony from Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts that they couldn't see Mr. O'Keefe at Fairview when they initially pulled up. You can see that from Officer Saraf's cruiser. You have Mr. O'Keefe being covered in snow from the storm. You know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was. It's clearly visible on the cruiser camera from Officer Saraf. You have the testimony from each of the responding officers, anywhere from 5 to 12 feet off the roadway, and from the civilians as well. Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts, Officer Mullaney has 6 inches of snow on Mr. O'Keefe when he first sees him. Firefighter Kelly says that he couldn't even see Mr. O'Keefe until he was 5 feet away in the darkness, in the snow, in the blizzard conditions. There's no footprints around the body. There's no drag marks around the body.
Well, you know what? We only have their word for that because they didn't take any pictures. The only picture they took was of doofus blow drying the snow. Doofus with leaf blower. That's the only picture they really took. They took no pictures of where the body was. They took no pictures of whether or not there were any tracks, tire marks, footprints, body drags around the crime scene. You can only take their word for it. Oh no, there were no tracks there. There were no footprints around there. There were no drag marks around there. There were no dog prints around there. Well, how do you know? Did you take pictures? No, you just have to believe us. You just have to believe us because So this is what I was saying at the beginning of this, is how much of his closing is dedicated to things that are unverifiable by objective evidence. And you'll find the answer to that is the overwhelming amount of evidence proving that she hit John O'Keefe knowingly and left him there to die is extraordinarily small. It's overwhelmed by just this stuff that is unverifiable independently by objective evidence.
There's no evidence of anything in relation to Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins spent January 28, 2022, traveling to New York City to go to a funeral for another police officer, for another department, who they didn't even know. Traveled all the way down to New York and then came back before the blizzard, only to come back from that to go out drinking, to come back to Mr. Albert's house, to then murder another police officer who they did know, who worked for the same department as them. And then criminal mastermind genius that Brian Albert is, 28 years on the Boston Police Department, he's then going to just leave Mr. O'Keefe's body on his front lawn. Really? That's the conspiracy? What evidence do you have of that?
What evidence do you have of that? More evidence than you have that Karen Reed did it, I would suggest.
You have statements that the defendant made to Sergeant Buchanan on January 29th. She was willing to speak, but didn't want to give too much detail. Conversational tone throughout. She indicated that the night before, they had gotten into an argument, something about what was fed to the children, nothing about the detailed arguments, incessant phone calls, and everything else that you saw from the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe's phone on the 28th. She indicated that she got to C.F. McCarthy's around 9 p.m., started drinking vodka sodas. The men were drinking beers. When asked where she parked her vehicle, she said she parked on Washington Street across from C.F. McCarthy's, facing northbound on the side, same side as Waterfront. Same testimony that you heard from Ms. Kolakithis, observing the defendant going over to her vehicle, getting in the driver's seat, and the victim, Mr. O'Keefe, getting into the passenger seat. She said they were left the waterfall, were invited to her residence. She drove her and John to the location in Canton. She dropped Mr. O'Keefe off, did not see him walk into the home. She, being the defendant, stated she made a 3-point turn and then left. When asked about the damage to her vehicle, she indicated to the troopers, "I don't know, it happened last night." June 2022, you have that other reporting of that other version that she now has evolved into, as far as stating to Sergeant Buchanan, "Are you aware that John was beaten up by Brian and Colin Albert? We're all in on the same joke, right? John was pulverized and my taillight was cracked." What evidence do you have of that? Mr. O'Keefe never went in the house. You have testimony from Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr., Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, all indicating never went in the house.
And you have the testimony of Higgins, who said that a tall, dark-haired man went into the house.
John O'Keefe's phone never went in the house, from the testimony and the data points that you have from Trooper Green. You know how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed, and you know the defendant knew that. You have the testimony from Kurt Roberts, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Karina Kolakithis, Nicholas Kolakithis, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Brian Higgins, all indicated in their testimony, and the defendant knew, based on her questions to the firefighters the next morning, that Mr. O'Keefe was not dressed for the weather when he left the waterfall.
So
the weather was a weapon.
Oh, for fuck's sake, he did it again. I didn't hear him mention it twice. I only
You
heard
have the
once.
testimony about the car, the defendant's car being there in front of the house, moving multiple times. You have that from multiple sources. You have that from Matthew McCabe. You have that from Jennifer McCabe. You have that from Brian Albert Jr. You have that from Julie Nagel. You have that from Ryan. You have the testimony of Ryan Nagel, Ricky D'Antonio, and Heather Maxon. Ms. Maxon indicated she saw a male passenger, female operator as the vehicle was turned. Remember, they're coming towards Fairview at the same time. The defendant, after conducting that reverse, a 3-point turn on Cedar Crest, is then taking a right onto Fairview, while Mr. Nagel, Mr. D'Antonio, and Ms. Maxon are taking the left onto Fairview. Mr. Nagel indicates that Mr. D'Antonio then flashes lights. During that time, Ms. Maxon can see inside the vehicle. She sees a male passenger. She sees a female operator. They follow the vehicle as they're turning onto the street. Lo and behold, they're going to the same residence. They park. There's nothing in between them and the defendant's vehicle. They indicate that at no time do they see anybody get out of the vehicle. At no time do they see any damage to the vehicle, or it hasn't happened yet. At no time do they see anyone leave the vehicle and go into the house. The vehicle moves up on different successive occasions, as testified to by Mr. Nagel and several others. And then as they're passing that vehicle, Mr. Nagel indicates that he sees a female operator in the vehicle with the dome light on. Interesting, when I asked Mr. Nagel, as far as when Julie Nagel came out to the vehicle, did he roll down the window or did he open the door? He indicated he opened the door. And I asked him, what happened when you open the door? What happens when you open the door to the vehicle? Dome light comes on. So there's a reason I would submit, or the inference that you can make, is that no one sees Mr. O'Keefe in the vehicle because that's the moment he steps out of the vehicle.
Did they see him on the lawn? Did they see a 6'2" guy standing on the lawn? Or had he gone into the house, which is why nobody saw him standing on the lawn? If you get out of the car, people can see you. If you're 6'2", you're going to be noticed. I would submit.
And then they're gone. The Nagels, Ryan Nagel, Ricky D'Antonio, and Heather Maxon drive away from that. We have the testimony from Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich conversation they have with Ms. McCabe, which while they're pulling away from the house where everybody's attention is drawn, Ms. McCabe is turned around facing both of them in the backseat. Ms. Nagel is facing Ms. Levinson on the passenger side, looking out the window towards 34 Fairview Road. Ms. Levinson is looking back at Ms. Nagel away from that area, in which Ms. Nagel indicates that she sees a 5 to 6 foot dark blob on the lawn near the pole in the hydrant, which is just where Mr. O'Keefe is discovered the next morning.
Yeah, weird that she never mentioned that to anybody else, especially the fact that it was 5 to 6 feet long.
Recall when you have text messages in regard to Colin Albert when he gets picked up.
Mr. Lally, 5 minutes.
Oh, thank Christ. That's the exact same answer I had last
Miss-
time. Thank God. 5 minutes left. Everybody, just take a moment to breathe deep. We've got, well, of course, I stop it every few minutes. So it's more than that, but we only have to hear his voice for roughly 7 minutes because he goes overtime. Of course, he goes overtime. Why wouldn't he go overtime? All right, where are we at here? Claire Richards has been a member for 2 months. Lally, don't trust the evidence. Trust me. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying they have no evidence. We have all the evidence. It's total 1984 speak here. You know, we have it all. Pay attention. You don't trust them. Don't trust the evidence. Trust us. We'll tell you what the evidence is, and then you'll believe us. Angel Australia. What's up, Angel Australia? Great to see you here. Hey, with the Aussie $10. Why do you think they're taking so long, Jeff? Making me nervous AF. There's no way of knowing. I mean, the possibilities are numerous. They could just be making sure they're doing an incredibly thorough job so nobody can criticize them for it. They may be literally be looking at every piece of evidence. They may be completely at odds with each other. They might be trying to sway one or a few jurors one way or the other. They might, who knows? There's no, we just can't know. We can't know why they're taking so long. There's no indication. And today's been very quiet. No questions, nothing. They're just doing their job. But I think it's a good sign they haven't said, you know, Your Honor, we can't come to a conclusion. Can we just call it a day and go home and just take the mistrial on this? Nobody's suggesting they can't come to a resolution. So I'm kind of optimistic in that way. It seems that they think they can work through everything, whatever the issue is. It seems, I mean, at least that's what it's telling me. I'm the jury whisperer that, yeah, it's not overly contentious. It's not, you know, they think they can work it out. So there's no need. It's not like there's 6 people or 11 and one going, no matter what, I'm never changing my position. Fuck all y'all. Forget the evidence. I don't care. I'm just not changing. There's none of that going on. It seems. Otherwise we were deadlocked. There's no hope of undeadlocking. So, what do? They're just continuing with their work. So I think that's a good sign. And again, it took the Rittenhouse trial 4 days to come back with a unanimous not guilty verdict. So we are literally just going to have to wait and see. But I get being nervous AF. And Duncan, Idaho with the $5. His talking speeds up when he's trying to hurry through his most nonsensical points, like the swollen eye my mouth is dry. Explanation. Correct. All right, 1,389 people here. Let's muscle through these last 5 minutes of Lally.
Allison McCabe, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Jr., all indicating that it was picked up around that time at 12:10 a.m. You have the testimony from Chris and Julie Albert, his parents, as far as when he comes home, kisses them goodnight before he goes to bed. You have that testimony in regard to Chris Albert, as far as how John O'Keefe and the defendant come to be at the waterfall in the first place, as far as John O'Keefe and his nephew coming in early in the day, getting a couple slices of pizza. What are you doing later on? Contained within those texts. You have the testimony from Lieutenant O'Hara, Lieutenant Tully, Sergeant Mechanic about those items being recovered. And in particular, the items being recovered on January 29th by that search. What did Lieutenant O'Hara say? The items were found close to the curb. The items were at ground level. 3 feet of snow that they had to sift through in order to find those particular things. The detail or the delay in the recovery of evidence The photos in the video, most of which you have in evidence, is earlier in the storm. This is before the 18 inches of snow falls down, before there's drifts and 3 feet of snow in places. They found the evidence where it had been at that same ground level, in the grass, under the snow, at 34 Fairview Road. We heard all of the medical testimony, which I would submit is consistent, from firefighter Formati to Dr. Rice. Heard the testimony regarding the defendant's blood alcohol concentration from Dr. Fowler and Nick Roberts, 93 milligrams per deciliter, 0.07 to 0.08% at 9:08 in the morning. We heard it, Mr. Roberts' testimony in regard to the retrograde extrapolation, 0.13 to 0.29, extrapolating back to the time of the operation. The defendant.
See, 0.2, did he say 0.29? He didn't say 0.39, did he?
Heard it, Mr. Roberts' testimony in regard to the retrograde extrapolation, 0.13 to 0.29.
0.29. That's damn close to unconsciousness. That's damn close to being unconscious. Yeah, she's supposed to drive this SUV in the snow backwards in a straight line for nearly 70 feet at a high rate of speed. Dude, 0.29, 0.40, just point, you're just dead. You're dead around 0.4. And it'd be like 0.40 and 0.3, oh my Lord.
Extrapolating back to the time of the operation. The defendant admits to drinking vodka. It's on the receipts from C.F. McCarthy's and from the waterfall. You have the witness testimony in the surveillance video in regard to it. The forensic testimony that you have. In regard to the medical testimony, you have the sort of pattern abrasions, clear plastic that's recovered by Lieutenant O'Hara and Lieutenant Tully on January 29th. The clear plastic that has the dimples on it.
That's so
No one, not Trooper Paul, not anyone at any point in time ever said that Mr. O'Keefe's arm was out like this at the time that he struck and that he did a pirouette and then flew 30 feet in the air.
Your Paul did,
12
your
inches
Trooper Paul did.
Of abrasions that the doctors were, the biomechanical people were talking about yesterday. 12 inches and then 6 inches to the tail end. It's easily solved by this.
No, it isn't.
And the dimples on his arm are, that I would submit, are consistent with the dimples on the taillight cover piece, are right around this area of the elbow.
He doesn't even believe that.
Testimony in regard to forensics, as far as Mr. Porto, Mr. Bradford. John O'Keefe's DNA is on that taillight house. On the house, his DNA is there, to the exclusion as well of Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor.
Yeah, well, to the exclusion of Proctor and Buchanan. But there was 2 other unknown individuals' DNA on those taillight casing. And weirdly, there was nothing found on the inside of the taillight itself. But yes, to say that those 2 were not, that's disingenuous, because there was 2 other unknown persons' DNA on the taillight cover.
Mr. O'Keefe's DNA is on the exterior of the broken drinking glass. Mr. O'Keefe's DNA, and only Mr. O'Keefe's DNA, is on his clothing and his fingernails, consistent with Dr. Sportybello's testimony that there is no evidence of a fight or an altercation. There's no one else's DNA under his fingernails. There's no one else's DNA on his clothing. You have the testimony from Ms. Hartman, Trooper Paul, as regards to the damage that they observed, the dent, scratches, 7/8 of an inch hair. You have the testimony from Ms. Chart in regard to the mitochondrial DNA profile from that hair being consistent with the DNA profile of Mr. O'Keefe. You have the testimony from Ms. Valier and Ms. Hanley in regards to the microscopic pieces, 1/16 of an inch by 1/16.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Lally. Wrap it up.
Yes.
Yeah, wrap it up.
All consistent with pieces of taillight that are found within his clothing. Ms. Gilman, if I could. 605. This is what this vehicle looks like backing up at that speed.
That's Lally's brain.
There's another years and years ago.
I like this. This shows how fast he's backing up.
605. This is what this vehicle looks like backing up at that speed for approximately that distance.
Oops. Your video's not working out for
There's
you.
another, years and years ago, started practicing in Norfolk County, in Braintree, what is now Quincy. Eventually became far smarter.
He's
man
gone
than
over
myself.
time now.
Eventually became president of the United States. His name was John Adams. John Adams once wrote, "Facts are stubborn things. And whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of the facts and the evidence." What the constellation of the facts and the evidence ineluctably demonstrate here is that the defendant drove her vehicle in reverse for 24.2 miles per hour for 62 and a half feet, struck Mr. O'Keefe, causing those catastrophic head injuries, leaving him incapacitated.
He's 2 minutes over time.
Mr. Lally, I have to stop you. You've gone over. Okay.
I literally have one sentence.
One sentence I'll give you.
From that facts and that evidence, I would submit ineluctably demonstrates her guilt on each of the indictments before you, and I would ask that you find this. Thank you.
All right.
That was Lally's closing arguments. The good things, he had visual aids, not just normal aids. He had visual aids. He started out strong with the I hit him thing, which he repeatedly pounded into the jury's minds. So give him points for that. That was a good presentation. It was good to focus on a theme for a few, but that went away after a few minutes. Woohoo. He had some visual aids. That's always a good thing. Other than that, I can't give him a lot. He didn't prove that she did it. He didn't even have on the timeline when she hit him with the vehicle. Just a few vague references and inferences to be made from the stupid timeline. The motivation he presented, that they had an argument in Aruba a month ago, and that they had the occasional disagreement or argument. There's no proof that she had the intent to murder him. I give him a somewhere around a C- for his closing arguments. I want to say D+, but that seems excessively low. I want to say D+, but I'll be kind and give him a C-. That's it. I can't give him more than that. He obfuscated. He misinterpreted evidence. I believe he flat out lied in several points in his closing. He misrepresented things. It was a frustratingly bad argument. F-, double D, yeah, of course. D+. Uncle Tom is the only one that is being knighted with the double D's. Lally gets an F. No, he doesn't get an F. He did enough to get a passing grade. D+ for showing up and participating. That's why I'll give him the C-, because he did slightly more than show up and participate. That's it. I mean, that's all I can give him. I can only, the highest I could possibly conceive of giving him would be a C-. And I think he has a lot to be ashamed of. I think he has a lot to be embarrassed about, and a lot to be disgusted with himself about, but he's not going to be. His closing was light years different from Alan Jackson's borderline masterful presentation. Let's see. Let's catch up here. What do you got here? Joe Pottinger. We did you. Did we? Yeah. Did we? Amazes me that with all the coming and going that he's just described, that no one either saw J.O. or heard the car being driven in reverse at 24 miles an hour. I have a question for you people in chat. I can answer this question yes, twice. Have any of you ever heard the sound of someone getting hit by a car that's going at a decent rate of speed? I have. It's loud. It makes a surprisingly loud noise. Okay, Melissa. Okay, we've got 4. Melissa, Austin, Sonia. We've got a few. How loud is the sound of someone getting hit by a car? It's loud. Yes, I've been hit twice. That's not good luck. Seen it and heard it. Loud bang. It is loud. The thump is awful. People in the house would have heard that. Loud bang. It's very loud thud. Yeah, I'm saying they probably should have heard the collision. That's all I'm saying. I think they should have heard that. Rage hunting, he coughs every time he lies. See, that's what I'm saying. That's a tell he has. If there's something that he's uncomfortable saying or something that doesn't quite ring true, he has that nervous cough. It's a big tell of his. And Duncan, Idaho, just one more sentence, Your Honor. No, I gave you a 5-minute warning and then a 1-minute warning, and your closing ends where you left it hanging. But in addition to that one question or that one sentence, she gave him an extra 2 minutes, actually. And what is British Gridiron Films for the £5? I really wish defense said, if you find that John O'Keefe maybe didn't get hit by a car, you can mark box 1 on the form for all counts and you can go home. Yeah, well, that'd simplify things. If you think you didn't, if she wasn't responsible for his death, mark not guilty, and everybody just gets to go home. Well, we are in towards the end of hour 10 or the beginning of hour 11 of the jury deliberations. It is now almost 1 a.m. here. So what I'm going to do is we'll wrap this up here. Okay. We just got notification here on Law and Crime that they're still in hour 10 of their deliberation. So they'll be in hour 11 here very, very shortly. We'll wrap this up here. Let's see who else is doing something where we can send you. Is someone else covering this, or should we just send you off in the wild? Let me check here to see who I can send people to. But don't go anywhere. The 1,400 of you that are here, don't go anywhere. We're not done yet. First of all, we need 10 more subscribers to get to 77,300. Just 10 more subscribers. We need 110 to get to 77,400. Just saying. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and the like button as well. Let's get those likes up there. We got a huge number of likes, and I think that's way cool. All right, I'm checking to see who I can forward us to, who I can redirect to when I'm done here. Customization. I just want to get it set now so that I don't forget about it. Let's see. Recovery addict. He's not covering this. Uncivil law. Bergman Baker. Divinity said. Oh, these people aren't live. Okay, that's not live. We'll send you over to Recovery Addict. Why not? He's court hopping, showing different things that are going on. That will kind of give you the cornucopia of court casey things today. All right, here's what's going to happen. The deliberations are going to continue. I'm going to go to bed because it's almost 1 a.m. here, and Flux, she hopefully will be able to roust me out of my sleep if the jury comes back with a verdict. She's usually the go-to waker upper because she's one of the few people that actually have my actual phone number. Other people, I will have my notifications on my phone. I'll have my phone like Brian Albert. I'll have my phone in the bed next to me. So, let me know in the Twitter DMs, And hopefully that'll wake me up and I'll run straight in here and we'll do the verdict live. So that's the plan. It's up to Flux to call me. I don't even know. Flux, are you even here? Are you even listening to us today? Yeah, you're still here in chat. All right, you're just lurking today. So Flux is hopefully going to call me if they come back with a verdict. I'll fire up the grill and do it live. If we go into tomorrow, I don't know because I have plans tomorrow night and they don't involve me sitting here on my ass waiting for the jury to come back with a verdict. So I don't know. I'll have to think long and hard about what's going on. Danny on direct. Hey, what's up, Danny? Danny's awake. Danny, you call me too. No, don't text me. Call me. So it's a double. We've got to Danny call me, Flux call me if we get a verdict, and then I will wake up. So there we go. Friday, I hope I'm doing something else. I plan to stream Friday evening U.S. time because Friday morning U.S. time I plan on doing something else. But if they don't have a verdict today, I guess I don't really have much of a choice, do I? We'll work on it. I'll think about it. I'll work on it. Stay tuned. Next Monday, we'll do something. We'll do next week is going to be a chill week. It's going to be a fairly chill, fairly relaxed week because I need to recover from this trial before January 8th, Monday, January 8th, July 8th, Monday, July 8th, the Alec Baldwin murder trial starts. And we'll be doing gavel to gavel coverage of that as well. So next week's going to be kind of a slow week. Next Friday evening, U.S. time, July 5th, is going to be my birthday stream. I don't know what we're going to do for my birthday stream, but we'll do something. So stay tuned next Friday. All right, everybody, that's it. I'm going to send you over to who did I say? Recovery Addict. So we'll do that. I'm going to go to sleep. Hopefully we'll see you at some point in the middle of the night for the middle of my night anyway, for the live reading of the verdict. If so, great. If not, I'll have to figure out what to do tomorrow. All right, people, mods, thank you so much for being here. Deeply, deeply appreciate you guys doing your moddy best. And thank you to chat for being here, keeping us company. You guys could have been anywhere that, the 12, 13, 1400 we had it in. We had 1600 at one point, I think. You all could have been doing anything anywhere else. You chose to be here with me. I greatly appreciate that. And thank you so much for the super chats, the monthly memberships, the gifts, all that other stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. Deeply appreciated. So all of you around the world, again, even if you're just sitting here in chat, keeping me company, keeping each other company, thank you for that. We will see you at some point in the future. Bye, everybody. Go say hi to Recovery Addict for me.